And we're live.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for attending tonight's virtual City Council meeting for the meeting of the Dublin City Council. As we always do, we'll ask that we call the meeting to order and rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Our first item is 3.1, recognition of retirements. And Ms. Smith, do we have a staff report?
I will give a brief staff report, Mayor, members of City Council. Tonight we have 2 members of our team that have decided to leave us for greener pastures and doing things that they want to do with their lives as opposed to working 40 hours a week. I suspect Chief Rocha would argue that he probably works in excess of 40 hours a week. But let me first start with Chief Rocha. Chief Rocha has been the chief of the Alameda County, is the fire chief of Alameda County Fire Department. Chief Rocha has been a partner of ours for many, many years, is one of our tenants in our building. He's worked in the fire service for over 33 years, and several gray hairs later, he's made the decision to retire. He started in my second favorite place in the world in my hometown, San Leandro, and was part of the group and the team that helped to consolidate Alameda County Fire, San Leandro Fire and Alameda County Fire many years ago. He's had many achievements over his long and storied career, and he's also been an incredible community partner here with the City of Dublin. And I had the great pleasure of working with him, and I'm sad to see him go. I'm excited by the hiring of Chief McDonald and him joining us as well. And I just want to thank Chief Rocha again for his contributions to our community over the last several years as chief, and that we will miss him. And I will turn it back over to the City Council. And we also have a special guest speaker on this matter tonight, Assemblymember Rebecca Barr-Cahan, who will also like to recognize Chief Rocha.
Well, let's do that first. Give the floor to our Assembly member, Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. Would you care to say a few words?
I would. Thank you so much, Mayor. And it's an honor to be with all of you tonight. I'm sorry we can't be in person as we usually are on these occasions, but I'm happy to be here tonight to thank Chief Rocha for his service and helping serve our constituents. I am putting together a certificate which will be mailed to you since I can't present it in person, from both Senator Glazer and me, thanking for your many years of service to the community. But I just want to say thank you. You know, we have served together not for as long as you've been in the community, but you've had an amazing career, and it has been critical to the safety of our community members, the work you have done. And as I was reading, as Linda was talking about your incredible career and how much you have done across the Bay Area community, I just want to thank you and say that I hope you enjoy your years of retirement that are so well earned, as the mayor mentioned. But just your contributions, whether it be to the state of California as the chair of the California Metropolitan Fire Chiefs, sitting on the California Fire Chiefs Association Executive Board. You were the Cal OES Region 2 Coordinator for Fire and Rescue, and you serve on the California Fire Service Task Force on Climate Impact. So not just keeping your day job, but doing so much for the state. So I know your successor will also be wonderful, but you will be missed in this community for all that you have done. And we hope to see it thrive, but we will miss you. So thank you on behalf of everyone in Assembly District 16 in the Tri-Valley and in Dublin for your many years of dedicated service.
Thank you.
Well, and thank you. That was quite a touching remark. I really appreciate that. Chief, would you care to say a few words, and then I'll ask my colleagues if they, well, you know what, let's do this. Let's ask the council anything that they would like to add, accolades for the chief. We'll go down the line. Vice Mayor Goel, any thoughts or comments?
Sure. Chief Rocha, I didn't get a whole opportunity to enjoy your presence and the service you offered, but did hear a lot about the great things you did and the impacts you've had on the city of Dublin and how you've just kept us safe. So thank you for your service, a much deserved time off, or shall I say what you may wish for as time off. I'm sure you'll be recruited into other opportunities. And I know you'll continue to serve and have us in your passion. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes, congratulations, Chief. And I want to say, I hope you enjoy your retirement with your family, your beautiful daughters and your wife. Very well deserved. Thank you for signing up to be a first responder. You know, you guys are very important individuals, and not only in our city, our communities, but anywhere you are visible, because even when you're off duty, you're always on duty. So I want to say thank you for so many years. Thank you for your commitment to Dublin, and I'm sure we will cross our paths in the future.
Councilmember Josie.
Thank you. Chief Rocha, congratulations. Thank you for your service to Dublin. Thank you for extending your retirement date a little bit longer than you had originally planned. We're going to miss you around here. It's been an honor and a pleasure getting to know you a little bit, and I wish you all the best in your retirement. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Kumagai.
Chief Rocha, it's been my honor and pleasure to serve with you on the Alameda County Fire Department Fire Advisory Commission. As a commissioner, I just really appreciated your attention to detail, your knowledge, and as is evidenced by your many, many years of service, your successor will certainly have a big shoes to fill. But I just know, because of the consummate professional that you are, by the professional organization that you've run, that they will continue to run a successful organization because of your legacy. So thank you so much for all of your service to our community. You will be missed. I hope you'll be around so we can see you out and about at events and out in the community. But well-deserved. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Chief Rocha, I echo the comments of my colleagues and the assembly member. I want to say I'm thankful and grateful, and to just feel blessed that you were the one chosen to lead the Alameda County Fire Department when you were chosen. I feel blessed and honored that we in Dublin enjoy a wonderful contract with Alameda County Fire, and just want to recognize you as always being professional and being fair, being goal oriented, and keeping us safe and following proper protocols and procedures to the T. And I'll echo the comments that we know you won't go too far. You will be missed, but you'll hopefully still stick around a little bit. And we know that the organization will be in fine hands, because it's just a fine-tuned machine working well, and we can't wait to meet your replacement. But want to say thank you for all your years, and what a great job you've done, and we hope to see you around. So with that, it's up to you. You can give the final comments here. We'd love to hear your thoughts on retirement, and maybe share with us what you're going to do with all that free time.
I certainly appreciate the kind words. I am not trying to hide from you. For whatever reason, my camera on my laptop has decided to stop working just as the meeting started, and so I didn't want to lose all of you, especially when you were voicing the kind words. I mean, certainly, when I informed the board and others that I was going to be retiring the end of last year, I did not foresee what we've all been through with the pandemic, and certainly the social justice crisis that I think we've got going on throughout the country. I mean, so things have significantly changed, for me, and I think in the transition that I was planning on making, as was mentioned, I've stayed around a little bit longer than maybe planned, but I'm certainly appreciate the relationship that I've had with the city of Dublin. Since Dublin came into the Alameda County Fire Department, and I was assigned initially as the liaison officer for the city of Dublin, and being able to work with you. Dublin is, we have 5 cities and the 3 national laboratories, and then of course all of the unincorporated areas that we serve. But Dublin truly is one of my favorite cities to work with. You've figured out how to run your city very efficiently and through contracts for service. do an excellent job, I think, with us and the sheriff and MC in delivering just excellent services to your citizens. And, you know, I'm so honored to have been the fire chief for the Alameda County Fire Department. It's not something when I entered the fire service that I ever foresaw. I wanted obviously to be a good firefighter and experience a lot of things and be able to serve my community in Alameda County that I grew up in. And I've gotten the chance to travel nationwide and go to, unfortunately, to hurricanes and other disasters and get some of the really interesting experiences that, you know, and bring them back. And I think make the Alameda County a safer place from learning all of those things. But thank you very much. I appreciate all of your kind words and look forward to this pandemic ending or coming to an end so we could all get back together and see each of you. Thank you.
Very well said. Very well said. Well, we have another outgoing person to recognize. Miss Smith, would you like to do the honors?
Sure, it would be my pleasure. We didn't have an opportunity to recognize her at the last regularly scheduled meeting because it was her birthday and she wanted to enjoy her evening, which I completely understand. But we have with us the retired former records manager and city clerk of the city of Dublin, Caroline Soto. Caroline, of course, served for the city for about 15 years. I had the pleasure of sitting next to her for 6 years, but she was a fixture at every city council meeting. And so people who are watching this meeting who have been in our chambers know Caroline. If you submitted a public speaker slip, you gave it to Caroline. Caroline passed it down and she followed the rules. Whatever the rules were set by the city council, she followed them. And so she didn't always have a lot of friends sometimes when she had to tell people no, but she had carried out your duties as assigned. And she's just been a real pleasure to work with. Obviously, you all know this. She's a close personal friend of mine and I adore her. And I'm sorry to see her go and I don't want to get misty about it. But we will see each other and continue to see each other. You know, one of the things that I've loved about Caroline and working with her at the council meetings is her kind reminders, her kind, sweet reminders of staying on task. John, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I do remember that coming up. She's been like an honorary paralegal over the years, reminding me when the council is going off agenda. I get an elbow from time to time through Linda usually. So she was very good at that, yes.
And about 30% of the time, he took that advice under consideration.
I took the advice under consideration at all times, but often I didn't say anything.
So, you know, on behalf of the staff here, we're going to miss her dearly. And we had a nice little send off for her on Zoom. We wish we could have done it in person. And for those of you that were able to attend, we sincerely appreciate it. I think she did as well. And I'll leave it up to her to talk about that. But we're going to miss her around here, and we're just happy for her future.
Very good, very good. Say some kind words, I guess, for Caroline. We'll start again with Vice Mayor Goel.
So Caroline, I got to say one thing, or maybe more than one thing, but I've been through a lot of agencies and I've been at a lot of meetings. I got to say one thing you do really well is make sure you navigate us. And like Linda said, you hold to the T with a smile. And even as much as you may want to get irritated at times, you still kept on smiling. And that was the beauty of your presence. You really made my time on council amazing and a joyful experience, because it was always somebody with a warm heart, a comfort, and a cheery attitude. Keep that up. Enjoy your retirement. You will be missed greatly, and hope to see you again soon and in person. I'd love to take a hug, but you know, right now we're doing a little bit of the elbow. Cheers. Have a great retirement.
So I neglected to look at everyone still on the call. I see we have our assembly member. So let's, I went a little bit out of order, but let's go back up a bit and ask her, Assembly Member Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, would you like to say a few words for our outgoing, already retired clerk?
I will, and I was happy to go after the council who has gotten to work so closely with Caroline, but happy to speak now too. So Caroline, Senator Glazer, and I also have a certificate of gratitude to you, a legislative certificate that will be in the mail shortly. So want to recognize that that's coming. But I just want to thank you, as I and all of the local electeds on this call know, it is absolutely the staff that makes the entire thing work behind the scenes. We are often the people that are seen, but you are doing an immense amount of work to make it all go the way it is supposed to go, as has been mentioned. And you know, the work you do to allow the agendas and the minutes and all the things that happen be out there for the community to see is really critical to the function of city government, and you know, all of that transparency and fairness and what makes government open and honest. And I know our community appreciates it, and so do I. So thank you for all of that work over the years. And I wish you a well-deserved and wonderful retirement as well. And I understand you are planning to stay in Dublin, so I look forward to seeing you around the district. And I just want to thank you for your service to our community and everything you've done.
Very kind words. Thank you, Assembly Member. Now we'll proceed with Councilmember Hernandez. You're up.
Yes, and Caroline, you have been a tremendous part of our staff for many years, and you have run a pretty tight ship. When you say you're going to do something, you always do it. And you have, and like I said it when we were saying congratulations to at the other Zoom meeting, is that I don't think a lot of people realize how much work you really, really do. And not only just us, but also the community as well. And so you are an essential, person to our staff. And I want to say thank you so much for all the years and dedication that you have given to us here. And you will be greatly missed. And you are always there to help all of us out. So I want to thank you, and I wish you the best of luck on your retirement. And I will see you around Dublin.
Very good. Councilmember Josie.
Thank you. We all got a lot to say at your retirement party, and so I'm not going to reiterate all of that. But one thing that I'm very much looking forward to now that you have officially retired is getting to hear your unfiltered opinion more often now that you're staying in Dublin. We've all alluded to the fact that you are the consummate professional. The staff who knows you better laughed when I said you didn't always share your opinion with us, because I think you always share your opinion with the rest of staff. But as the professional that you are, you've always been exceedingly neutral with all of us council members. I think that's not what's always going on in your head, but that was what you always said to us. And I am very much looking forward to the more unfiltered Caroline now that you are no longer a staff member, and will shoot us your opinion as a member of the public. So I'm really looking forward to that. But I do want to thank you for being the professional that you were. My first experience meeting you was as the clerk for submitting public comment. And I think you set me straight on my first public comment and speaker slip long before I even thought about running for council. And, we all mentioned that you are the first person, the city clerk is the first person any of us ever encounter at the city when we want to file papers and run for office. And you guided us all through that process. And I thank you for that. And I'm just tremendously happy for you that you're going to retire. And I'm tremendously happy for us that you're staying in Dublin. So congratulations.
Great. Councilmember Kumagai.
Caroline, I was really honored to be able to participate in the staff reception that we held, the virtual reception, and to hear all the stories and see the wonderful video. It's a side of you and of staff that we don't normally get to see on council, but as my colleagues have mentioned, I'm just have always been so impressed by your professionalism. We really rely on you to put together, solid agendas, to put together all the information, to make sure things are properly noticed, and to make sure that, the city stays out of trouble in that sense, and to ensure transparent governance. And it's just so very important. And on behalf of the community, on behalf of myself, thank you so much for your many years of service to Dublin. And like Jean said, I look forward to getting to know you better as a constituent, and doors always open if you have any thoughts or opinions and you want to share about how we're doing things here in Dublin. Be happy to chat with you about that.
Well, Caroline, I'm going to echo the comments of my fellow council members. I just remember 8 years ago taking out papers and filling out the ballot statement and having a brief discussion about how to count to 200 words and to make sure that we all counted them right. It took me about 18 times, I think, to get it right, because you kept coming up with the rules of what words count and what words don't, and that was just hilarious. But you've done an outstanding job. A member of our family that's leaving us actually already left, and every time you lose a family member, it hurts a little bit. And so it's with a little bit of sadness that we let you go, but it's with great, the city of Dublin gained back a fully voiced resident, we'll say. And so winner there. We expect to see you back. Don't forget to fill out a speaker slip if you come back and want to speak, which we assume we will see you at some point. And we'll probably, of course, we know that we'll see you around town. And so now, if we've done our job right, you probably have a tear or two, but you're welcome to say a few words. And we love to say goodbye to you tonight. Thank you for being here, even though you are retired. Why don't you just close us out?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. As you said, I've worked with the city for 14 and a half years, and 12 of those as city clerk. And I've had the privilege of helping the candidates navigate through the nomination period, and then the pleasure of working with all of you at all the city council meetings. And I'm one of a handful of employees that has worked with all four of our city, worked under the leadership of all four of our city managers. And throughout the years, I've worked with many dedicated city employees. I am a 27-year resident of Dublin with no plans of going anywhere soon. And now I get to participate in the meetings from the other side of the dais. So I just want to say thank you again for tonight's recognition. I'm going to miss all of you, but I do plan on going out to the events and, making sure that I come up and say hi to you for, all the years that you've dedicated to the city also. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we move on to item.
Mayor, you do have a public speaker for this item, Sean.
Oh, very
Costello.
good. Call the name.
Sean Costello.
Welcome, Mr. Costello.
He's coming.
Okay, great.
Sean, you there?
I am here.
Hi, Sean. We can hear you. Go ahead. Thank you for.
Okay. Also, I wanted to say to Caroline that it was a blast. I mean, an absolute blast to have her help me fill out all of the paperwork for running for office, all the times that I ran, all the times that it was a blast to talk to her, to give her all my slips of being. It is such a great time to be here in this city for you guys, for all of you. It is all a blast to be a part of the whole solution of this great city. And she really made me feel very special to be a part of the voting process and to be a part of running for office. Thank you, Caroline, for all of your great effort of trying to help me out. Thank you.
Well said. Thank you for coming tonight, Sean, and saying goodbye to Caroline. With that, we've come to item 3.2, public comment, a chance for members of the public to comment on any item not on tonight's agenda. Ms. Moore, do we have any speaker slips for public comment?
Yes, Mayor, we do. We have 5 speaker slips right now for public comment.
I'll let you call them off in order then.
Okay, our first speaker is David Burrows.
Mr. Burrows, welcome. Are you on?
I'm here.
Welcome. You're on. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for taking the time to hear my comment tonight, City Council and Mayor. The City of Dublin promotes and supports a high quality of life, ensures a safe and secure environment, fosters new opportunities, and guarantees diversity and equity in all of its institutions, championing a culture of belonging for all residents. This is, of course, an improved version of our Dublin mission statement in our city, and I am eagerly anticipating hearing each of you on the council request to agendize the proposal to improve Dublin's mission statement and confirm our commitment to make Dublin a welcoming place for all. Thanks for your time.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Moore, the next speaker.
Yes, our next speaker is Mahum Shahab.
All right. Good evening, members of the council. My name is Maham Shahab. I'm an 8-year resident of Dublin, and I also came on to talk about the mission statement that was proposed by a couple of community members a few months ago, or maybe a few weeks ago. Honestly, can't remember, but it's growing in support. We have over 200 people who signed a petition in support of this proposed statement, and we know that the community really wants to kind of see what we can do to add a few words to it and try to affirm our commitment to making Dublin a better place for all its residents. So I really hope that the City Council will hopefully put it on the agenda for the next meetings to come and kind of talk about it. It's something a lot of us are looking forward to, and yeah, I would just like to voice my support for it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Ms. Moore, the next speaker.
The next speaker is Phil Tucker. I don't see him in the meeting yet, Mayor, so we will go to Regis Harvey.
Hello, my name is Regis Harvey. I'm with the organization Diversity Inclusion Alliance. And speaking for Diversity Inclusion Alliance, we also support in regards to the revision of the mission statement. So we are for support of that. And we would love for it to continue going forward with the new mission statement. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your comments. Ms. Moore, the next speaker.
Mayor, the next speaker is Sheila Mason.
Sheila, are you able to join us?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yes, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, my name is Sheila Mason. I've been a Dublin resident for over 15 years now. I love Dublin. I'm proposing the Dublin City Council to enact an ordinance establishing a temporary 6-month moratorium on rent increases and late payments on all tenants residing in the city of Dublin who can't pay their rent due to the coronavirus-related hardships. Residents in my community, many of which are seniors, are under the control of large property management companies who continue to increase their rent with additional late penalties. We are asking you as our elected officials to stop landlords from profiting off of the financial insecurities of their tenants. And I might want to add that other Bay City counties and cities that have similar ordinance are Contra Costa, San Francisco, Pleasanton, and San Jose. So I'm hoping that this will be something that the City Council and you, Mr. Mayor, would take up for a serious conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. Has Mr. Tucker been able to join?
No, Mayor, he has not joined yet, and we have left him a message.
Okay.
That is the last speaker slip for public comment.
I'm going to guess that he's also in favor, as the first 4 speakers were, of the word change. And I know that we would typically wait until the end of the meeting at item 9 to talk about this, but I'm just going to ask that I'm going to guess we have support to bring back an item that would discuss the wording of our vision statement and to contemplate the word changes that are being requested. And I'm just going to ask, can we just give direction now if there are 2 other members of the council that would agree to do that, so that the people that spoke would be able to know at this early hour that we would do that. Is that okay with Mr. Bacher and Ms. Smith?
I guess I would like to understand that you want us to bring back an item to discuss changing the mission statement. Is that correct? And that we
Well,
won't,
it
you won't be
seems that's,
pretending to know exactly what you want, simply that you want to discuss it, and then we can leave that finished at the meeting.
I would ask, could we simply give direction to add the 2 words? If that complicates things and we prefer to agendize it, then I would advocate to do that. But I would love to be able to just see if the council members would agree to add the 2 words, diverse and inclusive. But I think to be proper, we would need to agendize this, I think. So.
That's correct.
All right. So do I see 2 others that would be willing to put this on the agenda so that we would talk about it?
Yes.
I see a couple of head nods and a thumbs up from a yes from Councilmember Hernandez, a thumbs up from Councilmember Guel. Sean Kumagai usually uses the technology, but he's just going to use his hand today. Good. I love that.
They took the button away. I can't.
Yeah, they took the button away. It's no longer there.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, we can't do that. Okay.
Can't do
And
emoji.
I'm going to say that Councilmember Josie's probably okay with it too. A thumbs up. We got that. Very good. We have unanimity there. I do have a question with the regards to the other item. I believe that we already have, by virtue of the county's action, a moratorium on evictions, but has the county done anything with regard to rent increases during this time and or late fees that are probably accruing on people? If they're not evicted, they may have a late fee if they're not paying. We know that there's an opportunity to not pay by virtue of the county's actions, but then it incurs a late fee, I guess. Do we know whether the county's actions have governed here at all, Ms. Smith?
I might have to turn it over to John Bacher. My knowledge is that they've only extended for the evictions, and then they haven't done anything to address rent increases or late fees.
That's my understanding as well. Perhaps Councilmember Hernandez has some more information.
No, that's correct. We were just talking about this item earlier. Only on evictions, nothing on commercial for cities or rental increases.
All right. Is there 3 votes to put this on a future agenda?
I support that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, just to be clear, would you want us to bring a report back about what you could do, or would you want us to bring back an actual ordinance that you would be prepared to adopt?
I think if you bring back our options of what we could do, then that would at least give us the opportunity to discuss and provide direction to go accomplish that. I'd like to at least understand the dynamics a little bit better. I understand that landowners or housing providers have an opportunity to waive late fees if they want, but that they're not required to. And I just don't know what procedures we would be able to take to accomplish that. So I think it's just an information item, really.
Just for clarification, I think there's 2 components to her comment, and I want to make sure that if we're focused on addressing late fees as opposed to the ability for a private property owner to increase their rent. That's the other component of this. And so I just want to make sure that when we bring something back to you, we've either covered off on the one item, which is the late fees, or if it's something that, if it's a larger conversation about the ability to increase someone's rent.
Yeah, I think I'd like to think about it a little bit more. I don't know enough about it. And so what I'd like to do is to come back, maybe me personally, this is just me, to think about it more, look into what others are doing, and if it's something we want to agendize to do that at that time.
Perhaps what we
from
come back
the
with is
others.
just a general, I'm sorry to interrupt, I didn't mean to. I think maybe we just come back with a general report what other agencies in the area are doing around this issue of, we know that there's a countywide moratorium, but we can at least tell you what other agencies in the area are doing, if anything, around the issue.
I think that's fair. I could support
late
that.
fees and rent increases, just as a discussion point.
I could support that. And I see Councilmember Goel gave a thumbs up, and Kumagai, and what do others think?
I think informational is something that we need to look at, and I think would be good for staff to bring information forward. I know that a lot of cities do their own type of ordinances already that they've had in place for probably many years. So I don't see anything wrong with bringing back information.
Councilmember Josie, your thoughts? Thumbs up. Very good. Okay, well, we can inform Ms. Mason then that's what we'll do. With that, we've concluded public comment. There's no more speakers. Ms. Moore, is that correct?
Mayor, there's not. Mr. Tucker has indicated he was in the room and he's going to try to call in right now, but we're not seeing him in here under his name.
Okay, we can go back if he's able to call in. Let me know.
Okay, I will do that, Mayor.
Okay, we also have the rest of the calendar, and there is a request. There has been a request to pull item 7.2 and to delay until the next meeting. A request was made by email to me, and so I will make a request and make a motion that we will table item 7.2 until our next meeting in August, and I think that's August 18th. And that gives staff more time. It gives stakeholders more time to consider the item. I think the staff report's already out there. So, but if staff comes across more information, it would be moved. I guess it would be, we would just take this item up at the next meeting, August 18th. And so I'll make that motion. I'll seek a second.
I'll second that.
Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, can we at least know the justification for the desire to push?
Would like more time to evaluate the staff report.
And who was that made from? Are you able to disclose?
Of course, yes, no, absolutely. So I received a email from the executive director of the Alameda County Building Trades Association, I guess is the name. And so that was where the request came from.
Thank you.
I did also reach out to other stakeholders and asked what they thought, and they were fine with also the delay. A motion's made and been seconded. Is there any other discussion on the motion? I'll ask for a roll call vote, Ms. Moore.
Councilmember Josie,
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
Aye.
Mayor Halbert.
Yes. With that, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, before you begin the consent calendar, a couple quick items. One, I'm hopeful if we could make an agenda switch and allow the CALCHA item to occur before the public hearing item on the downtown specific plan, because our friends at Catalyst Housing have sat on probably 9 hours worth of city council meetings waiting for their item to be heard over the last 2 weeks. And I'd love for them to have an opportunity to be the first regular agenda item on the agenda, if that's possible, if the council would agree to that. And then I have a couple of items related to consent I just want to clarify.
Very good. So with that, well, why don't we just make the motion to move item 7.1 to be the first up after the consent calendar, right? And I certainly support that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Member Josie,
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
Aye.
Mayor Halbert.
Yes. All right, then we'll go to the consent calendar. Before we take a motion and a second, why don't you, first let me ask, any member of the council wish to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull item 4.6 just for a separate vote. No comment necessary.
Okay, very good.
And
Any
Mayor,
others?
I have speaker slips on 4.10 and 4.6.
Okay, then I see a request to pull item 4.10 as well. And so let's pull item 4.6 and 4.10. And ask Ms. Smith if she has any clarifying points on either the balance of the consent calendar or those two items.
Sure. There's just a couple minor changes to the consent calendar I wanted to note. There's a change to the minutes on the June 16th meeting. We attributed a comment to an individual who wasn't the speaker, and we will be making that change. Unless Marcia has already made that change, we have attributed it to the right speaker. And then item 4.9, this is the introduction of the ordinance related to business registration. We had inadvertently used the term business regulation in the title of the ordinance. We will correct that before the adoption of the ordinance at a second reading if you take the action to introduce it tonight.
Okay. With that, I'll move that we approve the balance of the consent calendar with setting aside item 4.6 and 4.10.
I'll second.
Wait a second.
We have a roll call vote, Ms. Moore?
Councilmember Josie,
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
Aye.
Mayor Halbert.
Aye. With that, we'll move to item 4.6 and then 4.10 for brief comment. Councilmember Josie?
I have no comment, just a separate vote, please.
Oh, just a separate vote, I see. Okay. Any other comments on item 4.6?
Mayor, I have a speaker on item 4.6. That is Sherry Hugh.
Very good. Ms. Hugh, welcome. Ms. Hugh, are you able to join us? Maybe you're on mute.
Yes, I'm mute now.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome to the meeting. It's your chance to comment. We can hear you and go ahead.
Thank you. So Honorable Mayor and the City Council members, my name is Sherry Hu, and I would like to comment on agenda item 4.6, providing for an increase in the salary for members of the City Council. So in this item description, last time the City Council salary was adjusted in December 2018, and salary is about $1,200, and the proposal is to increase for 5%. So we have seen the council members and the mayor are very committed and spend so many hours. And I remember last month, the council meeting on June 22nd, which discussed on the project at Dublin. And the meeting itself lasted for more than 6 hours till about 2 a.m. in the morning. And that does not include the time the city council member and the mayor spent on doing project research, talking to the relevant people, and replying to emails. The city members, they would make much more if they spend time on some other work. So I really want to say, I want to thank all of you for your commitment and for your work, for your services you have done for the Dublin. And however, right now we are experiencing this unprecedented COVID-19, and the economy might be significantly impacted, and the unemployment rate is very high. And our city budget is likely to decrease as well. Therefore, I would like to ask all of you to consider just saying no to increase at this moment. And by doing so, I think you show your leadership to our residents and show your service and commitment to Dublin. And that's I want to say again to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in the public comment session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hu. Ms. Moore, are there any other public comments on this item?
No, Mayor, there are no other public comments on this item.
So let's bring it back for discussion. If there's a separate vote, I'm assuming that there would be discussions. Anybody have any comments to make on this item? We'll start with Councilmember Vice Mayor Goel.
Yeah, so, obviously when we saw this item back in February, times were different. Lots changed. To me, I think it's going to be important that we take a position, and we take a position that supports what's forthcoming potentially in dialogue and discussion relative to a downturn in the economy and the adverse impacts. Although this is just $100 as far as an increase, I think it's more about the sentiment and how it resonates with government officials and how they act in a time of a downturn. The number is 5%, right? So 5% sounds actually a lot bigger than the $100. So I just kind of urge you to kind of reflect on that and make the appropriate decision. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Hernandez. Any comments?
I have no comments.
Councilmember Josie.
I didn't really mean to start a whole can of worms. I only wanted to pull it for separate vote to be consistent with my comments. Last time I supported a 3.5 COLA increase, basically at 3%. And I just wanted to be consistent with that. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Kumagai.
I don't think we need to relitigate this, but I'll reiterate what I mentioned last time. I certainly appreciate the public comment sentiment and others that have been voiced in the past about how things look. I think by any stretch of the imagination, what we make would not be considered exorbitant by anyone. I don't even think we probably make minimum wage, to be honest. What I mentioned last time, I'll just reiterate here, is that what people are compensated for running for office is a reflection of who we want to be allowed to participate in the democratic process. For people who cannot afford to give up their time without due compensation, is basically freezing them out. And I think it's a position of privilege that we say people in the future do not deserve due compensation for public service. So that's why I fully support the full amount. And I think that that sends a clear signal to future elected officials that you can participate in this process, be duly compensated, and not be such a sacrifice on you and your finances.
Okay, indeed. This is time that we have pandemic upon us, financial turmoil. I don't disagree with any of the comments made. In fact, I think that compensation for council members and the mayor is a topic that should be more deeply discussed. And I agree that compensation currently doesn't cover, and that's not why we run for office, but to Councilmember Kumagai's point that it could be seen as a barrier to those who otherwise couldn't afford it. But I also agree that tough times call for tough decisions, and that we're in one of those. And sending the right message to the community is important. Sending the right message to everyone that would have to tighten our belt, perhaps. And some of those members of our community are going without a paycheck entirely right now. And so I'm not opposed to delaying this or not approving this tonight. So that's something that that I think I would support. But I have a question of Mr. Bacher and Ms. Smith. This is the first reading of something that we provided for doing back in February. If this doesn't pass, what happens?
Well, if this doesn't pass, you don't increase the salaries for the.
So it just nullifies the action that we took in January?
And January, I don't believe your action was to, I
Or
think
February?
discussion item. John, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a discussion.
Yeah, it was just
item around-
policy direction whether to produce the ordinance or not. So staff sought that first. The way this works is the salary increase doesn't become effective until after the new council is sworn in. So, you know, if you don't adopt it, then the new salaries wouldn't go into effect with the new council. If it became effective before the new council was sworn in, the new salaries would become effective.
Mr. Bacher, could this be taken up by a future council at such time that our situation is more fully known? In other words,
yeah, I mean, you would forego. I mean, if you let the new election go, you would forego the increase in the interim, but you could catch up later. Is that what you're getting at?
Yep. I would support that. So I think that's clear now. Are there any other clarifying questions before we, I guess, take a motion and a roll call vote? Any other clarifying comments? Does anybody care to make a motion?
I move to approve the ordinance as presented.
I'll second.
Ms. Moore, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Josie,
No.
Councilmember Kumagai,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
No.
Mayor Halbert.
No. Thank you very much. Item 4.10 pulled for comment. Councilmember Kumagai?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pulled it. I believe we have public comments. So I'll defer to the public comment. I believe we have members of the Muslim community here, representatives from CARE Bay Area. But I wanted to recognize that we are for the second time recognizing American Muslim Appreciation and Awareness Month, and I wanted to commend that action. And I'll just look forward to hearing the public comment on that.
Very good, very good. With that, I'll also ask, did we provide a proclamation? I know that there was one requested, and I believe that we did. And maybe that's something that the members of the public are going to speak about. Anybody else care to make comment on item 4.10? Let's have the public comment then. Ms. Moore, how many speakers do we have?
Mayor, I have 4 speakers on this item.
Wonderful, welcome. Why don't you call them off in order?
Okay, the first speaker is Mahum Shahab.
Good evening again, Council. My name is Maham Shahab, and I'm an 8-year Dublin resident, a proud Dublin High graduate, an American Muslim, and also today a representative of the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, serving San Francisco Bay Area as a government relations intern. In today's political climate, it is all too easy for me to be weighed down by the hate and Islamophobia I am constantly bombarded with through media outlets and general social media. Just today, the word Islam was trending on Twitter, and my heart sank going through hundreds of tweets spreading misinformation and hate. It's hard being Muslim in America, and although I know I have it easier than Muslims who are going through worse forms of discrimination in other countries, sometimes it feels like America hates me. But the only thing I need to do to refute that is look no further than my neighborhood and my city. Dublin as a city and the Dublin Unified School District both have provided my community a voice, recognition, and most important to me, opportunities to serve, which is integral to how I practice my faith. Although passing on a proclamation may seem merely like a symbolic and quick form of recognition, I can assure you that it means so much to lots of Dublin Muslim families. We appreciate you recognizing the service mosques like the Muslim Community Center here in Pleasanton that serves a lot of Dublin families and the Dublin High MSA is engaged in. And I thank you for helping me and my family and my community feel safer and more welcome in our wonderful community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for those kind words. I just have to say we're so proud of you as a Dublin High, former Dublin High student, Dublin High grad, and a continued resident in the city of Dublin. Very well said. Thank you. Next speaker, Ms. Moore.
Yes, Mayor. The next speaker is Munir Safi.
Munir, go ahead. Munir? They are unmuted.
Munir, you might be on mute.
They're unmuted.
Unmuted, okay. Walked away to take a break, maybe. Maybe let's go to the next speaker and see if he comes back.
Okay, we will do that, Mayor. The next speaker is Samina Usman.
Yes, Samina, welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor Halbert and Council. I'm Samina Usman. I'm the Government Relations Coordinator for the Council on American Islamic Relations. And like the intern in our office, Mahum, had said, I am actually incredibly proud of her and her work. And like she expressed, you know, this proclamation means so much to the community, especially given the environment of Islamophobia and hate crimes and school bullying and discrimination. We've been seeing, you know, those cases time and time again that come to our office. And to know that the city of Dublin is standing firm with the Muslim community and recognizing the contributions that the Muslim community has brought, you know, such as, I mean, especially, so in the proclamation that the city is giving, it recognizes the work that the community has done, especially in response to the COVID pandemic, and how the community has been, you know, providing services such as, you know, food donations and blood drives and, you know, packing up backpacks and fundraising and donating to those who are impacted by the pandemic. Again, we are part of this community. We want to serve this community, and we are truly appreciative of the city and its recognition. So thank you very much.
Ms. Usman, thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker, Mayor, is Aliza Shahab.
Aliza, welcome.
Hello, my name is Aliza Shahab. I am a student at Dublin High and I'm the MSA president. And I'm so thankful for the City Council to be proclaiming this Muslim Appreciation Month, because the work that my board and I do is really just so that our Muslim students can feel seen and heard. And we just want to continue to make the Dublin High campus and the city of Dublin as a whole a safe place for Muslim students. And I'm sure the entire MSA is so thankful for all of the work that you guys are doing to make us feel appreciated. And I'm so happy to be working with the city of Dublin as MSA president. So thank you so much.
Very well said. Do you happen to have an older sister named Mahum?
Yes, I do.
How could I guess? Are you proud of her?
Yes, I am so proud.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Two sisters on the call. Do we have the speaker that wasn't available earlier?
We don't, Mayor. It appears the speaker hung up and is not currently in the meeting at this time.
I'm going to assume they were in support of this item. I would like to say thank you to Samina Usman for bringing this to our attention and the opportunity to, again, and we've done this year in and year out, so we're consistent in our support of this proclamation of Muslim Awareness Month, and that I'm proud that we can do this as a community to reinforce that we are a city that it stands united against hate, which is a program we shamefully stole from our friends in Berkeley and made it our own. And we have posters around town to recognize that. And that is to stand up for people that are discriminated against, and we heard speakers talk about that earlier, and there's no place in Dublin for that. And so it is a piece of paper, but it's so much more than that. It's our speech, the speech of our council. When we make that proclamation, we stand behind it. And for us to continually, periodically, every so often, reinforce that whatever community it's in support of, over time, that helps to hammer home that message. And so Dublin is a better place for the actions that we take tonight and other actions throughout the year. And we should never forget that we can't let our guard down in that regard. So I'm proud to do this. And so I'll make the motion that we approve item 4.10 and seek a second, but I'll also go to all my colleagues for comment as well. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Councilmember Guel, comments? Sorry.
No worries. Mr. Mayor, you said it so well. Our proclamations are merely a testament of our beliefs and the way we as a community operate. The American Muslim Appreciation Awareness, I believe the last time we did it was last year, which was the first time. And it was so dearly taken by the Muslim community, and it was near and dear to their heart. And I think it was more than that. It was about the topics that we are bringing for us right now, inclusivity and diversity. And this is just another way to make sure that all the diverse communities feel like they're included. And so I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes, and I want to appreciate all the callers that called in this evening, and especially to Samina. I haven't seen you in a while, and I appreciate you coming and calling and being part of our program this evening. But I also want to say that, these proclamations are very important. And I'm glad that our city of Dublin is always bringing them forward. But also, to echo what you said about, we don't, as a community, as a council, stand for any hate at all whatsoever, especially in this great community that we live in. So thank you to all the staff for bringing this forward. And thank you for all the speakers for coming and taking the time this evening.
Councilmember Josie.
Thank you. Yes, of course, I support all three of the proclamations that we have tonight. And I want to thank Samina and Mahum and Aliza for speaking. I miss all three of you. We could be back in in-person meetings so I could see your faces when you speak. Anyway, thank you for the support and the work that all three of you do and that everybody else does in support of diversity and particularly Muslim appreciation. The work that all three of you do for your community is inspiring. To the Shahab sisters, the work that you do at school, I see all the time, of course. And I know that you do it on a much broader basis for the community at large. And I thank you for that. And I'm glad that we're able to do this proclamation tonight. Thank you.
Very good. Well said. Councilmember Kumagai.
Yeah, I want to echo what the sentiment Councilmember Josie just mentioned, and that's just thank you. Thank you to the Muslim community for your contributions to our community, to our city, to the larger Tri-Valley community. I know we've all been hit hard by COVID-19, and it all happened during Ramadan, and it was such a testament to your commitment to our community that during the whole list of months, the Muslim community rallied around shelter in place, and as opposed to being out in prayer in large group settings, you chose to find ways to do that virtually. And I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Muslim community for that selfless sacrifice and your continued contributions. Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm glad you were able to be here with us tonight virtually to receive this proclamation tonight. Thanks.
Very good. I'll clarify the motion, which is to approve all three of the proclamations that are agendized. And so with that, I'll ask Ms. Moore to have a roll call vote.
Member Josie?
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
Aye.
Mayor Halbert.
Yes. Okay, with that, we're moving on to the next item. We moved up.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, sorry.
we moved on so fast from 4.6 that I didn't get an opportunity to make a substitute motion. When the first motion went down, may I have an opportunity?
Mr. Bacher, what are our options here?
Mr. Mayor, I think it would be appropriate under the circumstances to reconsider 4.6.
I believe as a member of the majority on that vote, I'm able to do that. Is that correct?
Well, I think, I don't know, I said reconsider, but I didn't mean that in a formal sense. I just meant go back in the agenda.
Let's
the
move
motion
back to
stated-
item 4.6 and allow for the possibility of a substitute motion or I guess an additional separate motion. Can we do that, Mr. Bacher?
I guess it's really a new motion, not a substitute motion. Since
Yeah, it would be a separate new motion.
Right.
Correct.
But it would be germane to this item, and we first have to move back to it. So I'll ask that we do that, and ask Councilmember Josie to proceed with making a second separate motion.
My intent when I pulled this initially was to just be consistent. My comments the first time we talked about this were that I thought it was more appropriate for us to stick with an increase that was in line with the CPI. I'd like to do that now. So I would like to move that we increase the salaries, but to do it at 3%, which is, I believe, about what the CPI was for staff. So that's my motion to amend the ordinance that we had in front of us to replace 5% with 3%.
I support this.
Here and straightforward enough. I see Councilmember Kumagai seconding that motion. Is that clear enough for staff?
Well, I think so, Mr. Mayor. I think we could just make the change in the version that's being introduced tonight and then bring it back in the final form with the 3% number. And yeah, so I think it's clear enough. Linda, do you agree?
I agree.
Is there any other comments?
I'll just comment, Mr. Mayor, that I think anyone can donate their salary back to the city of Dublin if they so choose, or any portion thereof. So, I mean, if that's a desire of folks who don't feel we should be receiving or approving this raise, that's another option.
They can also donate it to CBO as well.
Fair enough. Any other comments? Ms. Moore, would you proceed with the roll call vote?
Councilmember Josie,
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai,
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel,
Nope.
Mayor Halbert.
No. With that, 4.6 passes, modified 4.6. Move on to item 7.1.
Mayor, if I could please, we do have our public comment speaker, Phil Tucker, in the room. If we could go back to that real quickly.
Yes, of course. Mr. Tucker, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, as well as staff. I think I'm a little late to the party, but I thank you for providing me the time anyway. As most of you know, I'm a Dublin resident, been in the city since 2005, been actively involved in my community. And I also want to acknowledge Muslim Appreciation Month. I think it's very important that the city reaches out to its various ethnic communities that live and work in Dublin. I actually began my quest to infuse Dublin's mission statement back in April of 2018. I actually spoke to mayor and council at that time, asking that inclusion and equity be included in a mission statement. As recently actually as December of 2019, Mike Karami, who you know, who is one of the leaders of the Diversity Inclusion Alliance, wrote a letter, email actually, to council asking that the mission statement for Dublin be updated. And I would say compared to neighboring cities here in the Tri-Valley, Dublin is far more diverse. All you need to do is go visit your local grocery store and look around. You know, due to a recent growth in Dublin, it also has a younger population. And what's happened with recent social events combined with COVID-19 has exposed many of the holes in our system. So I challenged council and leaders in this community to establish a Dublin culture that represents the best of humanity and creates a sense of belonging that is second to none. I will continue to be very involved in my community. I will continue to support the mayor and council members, whoever they may be. I'm very proud to live in the city of Dublin and represent the city of Dublin as I go about my daily chores. And thank you for your time. I apologize for being so late. I look forward to the day when this mission statement can be enhanced and we can all celebrate what a great city Dublin is to live in. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Very well said and much appreciated. Great comments. With that, we'll move on to item 7.1, the California Community Housing Agency, CalCHA, Middle Income Rental Housing Program. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, mayors and members of the city council, thank you. Before you tonight.
Ms. Smith, just before you get going, I'm going to have my colleague, John Getz, participate in this item, and I'm going to recuse myself because I happen to represent Catalyst, which is one of the entities that's involved in this CalCHA project.
Thank you, John. Mayors and members of the City Council, we have an item on the agenda tonight to continue a discussion that was started several months ago regarding CalCHA and the Catalyst Group. And Christy Wheeler, I believe, from our community development staff will lead this item and talk to you a little bit more about the CalCHA program. The Catalyst housing folks are here on the call as well if you want to ask them some questions, or perhaps they can provide some clarification. And as John mentioned, we have legal counsel John Getz, who is joining us, who has been involved in the discussion with the Catalyst Group about our potential participation in the CalCHA program. So I'm going to turn it over to Christy. I say with a question mark. Okay, great.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. It's a pleasure to finally be providing you this presentation. I guess the third time is a charm, as they say. In February, the City Council received a report on recent housing legislation and a summary of various affordable housing opportunities that the city is pursuing. Included was an opportunity presented to the city by Catalyst Housing Group to participate in the California Community Housing Agency, or CalCHA program. After receiving the report, council directed staff to further analyze the program and consider joining. The CalCHA Middle Income Rental Program provides affordable housing targeted at moderate and middle income households earning between 80 and 120% of area median income. Currently, there are limited numbers of opportunities and subsidies that produce or preserve below market rate rental housing for households in this income category. The program is managed by a joint powers authority, which was formed by Kings County and the Housing Authority of Kings County. Additional jurisdictions may join CalCHA if they wish to participate in CalCHA's program. Catalyst currently represents CalCHA and is the asset manager of projects under contract to CalCHA. Under the program, CalCHA issues revenue bonds to acquire either new or existing apartment complexes and then converts the projects into income and rent restricted units for moderate and middle income households. Revenue bonds are issued as limited obligations of CalCHA and not of the participating members, and are payable solely out of revenues and receipts derived from the project being financed. The financing model developed by Catalyst uses revenue bonds issued by CalCHA to finance the acquisition and development of middle income affordable housing, which reduces project financing costs and eliminates property tax burden. This enables Catalyst to charge lower rents and target middle income households. To utilize the bond funds, a public benefit is needed. This is achieved through the execution of a regulatory agreement that restricts the use of the property and grants surplus project revenues to the jurisdiction. Through the regulatory agreement, the use of the property would restrict occupancy to low income, middle income, and moderate income households, limit annual rent increases to a maximum of 4% of a tenant's rent, and prevent displacement of existing residents that do not meet the income eligibility requirements. In order for Catalyst to use the proposed financing model in Dublin, the city would need to become a member of CalCHA for the limited purpose of financing or refinancing specific projects, approve CalCHA's issuance of tax-exempt bonds for the acquisition of existing rental properties or development of new housing as a means to preserve and protect middle-income rental housing within the city. Enter into a purchase option agreement with CalCHA for any project that is acquired or developed, and accept any surplus cash or sales proceeds generated by the property to ensure its use as a public benefit. Dublin's participation in the program would require that the city enter into a purchase option agreement for each property that is purchased. The terms of the agreement include the city's right to purchase the property 15 years after the acquisition or any time thereafter for the remaining term of the 30-year bond. However, entering into the agreement does not obligate the city to purchase the property at any time. The future acquisition price would be the sum of the amount sufficient to pay all project debt, encumbrances, amounts due to other parties to the transaction, and transaction costs. Any surplus cash would be held by the trustee and then used to pay project financing costs and/or distributed to the city upon acquisition or transfer of ownership. The city would purchase the property in an as-is condition with all faults. Staff has worked with Catalyst on a set of deal terms in order to recommend city participation in the program, which include the following. City authority to review the selection of the original and any replacement property management company, the agreement between CalCHA and Catalyst, and the regulatory agreement between CalCHA and the trustee for the Dublin properties. Properties acquired by CalCHA with existing below market rate units in the city's inclusionary housing program would continue to be subject to the city's inclusionary zoning regulations and guidelines as provided by existing regulatory agreements with the city. Rent for units affordable to low, middle, and moderate income households would not exceed 35% of monthly income limit for Alameda County. Preference for vacant units would be consistent with the city's inclusionary guidelines, provided that Catalyst maintains the ability to meet all fair housing requirements. And the city would be allowed to review and audit project financial records. Catalyst has agreed to the proposed terms with the exception of the city's request to provide indemnification and/or liability insurance protecting the city against liability for CalCHA projects. Staff is continuing to work with Catalyst to address our concerns and hope to find a mutually agreeable solution. Staff recommends
Christy,
that—
if I could, Christy, I apologize. Perhaps maybe we can head off a subsequent question from the council on that. John, can you speak to what the outstanding issue is and then a path to resolution perhaps on the liability question?
Yeah, hi, again, thank you, John Getz from Myers and others. The request to the CalCHA staff and Catalyst was to provide some sort of indemnity or insurance coverage for the city with the concern that city's involvement in the project might lead the city to be named in any lawsuits related to the construction or management or operation of the project. And in those discussions, we discovered that Catalyst and CalCHA has had discussions with its own insurance company, and it's unclear whether the insurance company is able to provide that insurance. CalCHA has provided indemnity to one other city, Larkspur, that is involved in a similar program, but has found that it's unable to do that with future projects. But Catalyst and CalCHA did offer to look for some creative solutions to the indemnity requirement, perhaps an indemnity from Catalyst or some other entity that is involved in the program. We didn't resolve the issue finally, but there seems to be some desire on both sides to come up with a mutually agreeable solution. And the terms that we sent to Catalyst and CalCHA does contain a provision that says the parties will work together to come up with something. If the city did approve the joining of CalCHA, this issue would still, could still be resolved in the future as the option agreement for individual projects is brought back to the city. So there is an opportunity to take care of this issue in the future.
All right.
Sorry, Christy, you can.
Well, I had just gotten to the recommendation part of the presentation. So staff's recommendation is to receive tonight's report and direct staff to continue to work with Catalyst on the indemnification and liability concerns, and then return with a resolution authorizing the city to become a member of CalCHA and authorizing the city manager to enter into purchase option agreements. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. As was mentioned earlier, Jordan Moss with Catalyst is available also. If you do have questions, he'll just need to be unmuted in order to answer them. Thank you.
I'll first ask if there are clarifying questions of staff. One I have is this time sensitive, and is there a preference to get this done tonight, figuring out indemnity and liability concerns later, or is it not that time sensitive?
Well, I think for the city staff, we're just trying to get direction on this item. I suspect that Catalyst Group has some interested projects, at least one or perhaps more than one in Dublin. And so he might have some time sensitivity that he's trying to address. But from the staff perspective, we're just trying to get direction tonight whether or not we should come back to you with a resolution to authorize to become a member. So it's really about giving us direction tonight. And giving us your input and your feedback, which we could incorporate either into any final negotiations with Catalyst in becoming a CalCHA member, and or any other feedback that you have for us about the way we've sort of laid out our deal terms.
Are there costs associated with becoming a member?
Christy, I don't believe there are any costs associated.
No, there's no cost associated with becoming a member.
Are we displacing any currently sourced vendors for affordable housing, or is this substituting for something else?
This is kind of a third spoke. I don't mean, Christy, I apologize, but I'm just trying to directly answer the question. So this is really trying to provide that sort of middle opportunity. We have a lot of nonprofit housing providers that end up providing homes in the very low and the low income category. We typically on development projects, as you saw when we tried to bring forward the Dublin project, we tried to attempt to figure out a way to get some of that moderate income housing into that project. But this is kind of that middle piece where you've got people who are between market rate and people who are on the very low spectrum. And so you're trying to provide housing opportunities for all. So this might be more applicable to people who are in public service or teachers or something like that. That might be more, this program might be more applicable to them and finding places that are affordable for them to live. Is that correct?
That was my next question. You anticipated it well. This could, knowing what salary our teachers make, knowing that we were not really able to accommodate them in the past because of that, not being low or very low, but sounds like more medium. This, we think, can accommodate teachers and perhaps other valued employees in the middle range.
Chrissy, you can speak to that, I think, more eloquently than I can.
I guess the simple answer is yes. This is the type of housing that would be targeted toward people that are city employees, teachers, white collar workers, but not those earning the higher salaries to achieve the American dream in Dublin. So this is rental housing, and it's really in the middle income and maybe younger workers, young professionals, and so that
Great.
wasn't very eloquent, but I think it
No, you
answers the
did
question.
you did a fine job. Any other clarifying questions of staff before we move to the applicant, or rather the member of CalCHA who's joining us tonight? Vice Mayor Goel?
Yeah, I think it's kind of really to piggyback on your question, Mr. Mayor. Are we able to put any sort of preference as far as, say, teachers and first responders? And then how, I don't exactly understand how the selection process would work. Is it more on a first come, first serve, or is it a criteria and then a first come, first serve? And then the follow on is, how are projects identified? So I guess three real key questions.
So I think I will let Jordan answer most of those, Christy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest.
Very good. Anything else, Councilmember, Vice Mayor Goel?
As of now, I guess that would be sufficient.
Councilmember Hernandez, clarifying questions of staff?
No, I thought Jordan was going to go ahead and answer Vice Mayor Goel's before we move forward.
Well, let's get staff out of the way, and then we'll go to any other.
Well, so how I see it is, I think this is an opportunity for us to at least look at, because, we all want different types of affordable projects in the future, but this is already an existing building. And if they have the opportunity to be able to do that and we can work something out, I think it makes the process obviously a little bit faster. I would like to see, if we move this forward, that I would like for CalCHA to come back with every single project, not necessarily just this project, but I know that they're interested in maybe other projects in the future. So I do want to see that coming back forward, that we look at every project.
Very good. Councilmember Josie?
I guess I'm still a little bit unclear about, this is housing that already exists.
It could or it couldn't, and I think Jordan can clarify that. Right.
Okay, so we may be putting the cart before the horse with asking our questions before we've seen what they've had to say, but some of it is affordable by design. If we're talking about acquiring a building that's already there, maybe, correct? Some of the apartments that they may want to acquire is already what we call affordable by design. Is that right? For some of them anyway?
Yeah, I think, again, he could probably best answer that question. Part of the strategy.
Why don't we just go to Jordan then? I think that's just where we're headed. Let's let him speak. Answer all the questions.
Sure.
Ask Jordan. Go for it, and welcome.
Thank you. No, thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, I've been making a list starting with your comment/questions, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to just sort of roll through a number of things if that works on your end.
Yep.
Just sort of in order. So, the first thing that came up is obviously the, indemnity and the additional insured. I don't know that we want to spend a ton of time on that now. As we've said, there's reasons why, sort of CalCHA and Catalyst can only do what they can do. I think, John, I think we all feel like we'll reach a solution here and something that works for everybody. So maybe we won't spend a ton of time in the nuances of that here tonight. On the costs of being a member, I just did want to confirm, Mr. Mayor, there are no costs of being a CalCHA member. You can also leave anytime you want. You're not signing up to be a member forever. There's no liability created by being a member. CalCHA's counsel at ORIC actually has drafted a letter for us that states just that there's no liability. There's an additional class of members, just to get a little more technical. You'd be joining as a capital A, capital M additional member. And these two classes of sort of the founding members of CalCHA and then the additional members, that's really a feature and not a bug, because as an additional member, that's why you're separated from all liability of any kind. There was a question about displacement of sort of current affordable housing groups. And I think Linda's comment about, sort of the third spoke here is an interesting one. I mean, as she was getting at, there's a reason why there's terms like the missing middle to begin with. There are programs and subsidies to address sub 60% AMI housing, and there's been plenty of market rate capital that cities like Dublin have been the recipient of to build high-end market rate housing, and there really is nothing in the middle. And I would tell you that, say Eden Housing, for example, Linda Mandolini there, who I know the city knows really well and respects, is actually a really big, one of our biggest proponents and supporters, and has said so publicly, thinks what we're doing is really innovative and creative, and that it creates sort of a housing ladder, if you will, such that people that graduate out of low-income housing or tax credit housing at with a cap of 60% AMI have housing to sort of grow into without having to stretch all the way towards market rate housing that are really set to unattainable rent levels. So just one example of how we view this to be additive and not taking away. And to get a little more technical, the fact that we're utilizing CalCHA issued governmental revenue bonds as opposed to getting an allocation of private activity bonds at the state level, which is what most affordable housing utilizes to fund projects. We're not taking away from other resources like tax credits or the traditional private activity bonds here. Again, this is all done in a totally separate additive manner, really not taking away from anybody at all. On the teachers side of things, there were some questions there, and maybe I'll address the preference question along with this. The first answer I always provide on the preference side of things is we have to operate within the bounds of fair housing legislation, just like everyone else. So while it's, we're all about creating preferences, I mean, we talk about this program as essential housing. That's generally what we call this. When we talk about the essential middle income workforce, and to get a little more granular and tangible, we usually talk about nurses, teachers, first responders, civil servants, so people understand exactly who these people are that earn too much to qualify for traditional affordable housing, yet increasingly and unfortunately not enough to reside directly within the communities that they serve and that depend upon them. And so teachers are very much in that mix. I would add, just in the event it's interesting, while Catalyst is a for-profit entity, we launched a nonprofit this year called the Essential Housing Fund to do a number of things in the affordable housing world, sort of above and beyond what we're doing to partner with CalCHA. And our first initiative with the Essential Housing Fund is actually providing additional rent subsidies specifically to teachers. And so we rolled that out in Marin County. Obviously, Marin County has some of the highest AMI levels in the country. We were looking at our 80% AMI rents at the asset that we acquired here with CalCHA. And there's just no way, if you average teacher salaries in Marin are $50,000. And if you look at average rents, we're asking teachers to pay 2/3 of their gross income towards rent, which is clearly unsustainable and really affects the school district's ability to attract and retain talent. And so the Essential Housing Fund, which we seeded out of Catalyst and will now go raise outside money for, we have created a program where public school teachers in Marin can pay 35% of their actual income towards rent, and the Essential Housing Fund makes up the difference. So it's almost, I would think of it as almost like a charitable or privatized Section 8, if you will. We've been jokingly referring to it as a Section 9, but these are just philanthropic dollars, to reach a little bit further down the spectrum outside of what we're able to do with CalCHA today. But we're really proud of that initiative and are going to raise some significant money behind it. We've also committed to contributing capital to it out of our fees every time we close new transactions, just to ensure that there's additional money flowing through the Essential Housing Fund at all times. The selection process of assets was next on the list. Hopefully I'm ticking these off sort of in order here. I would just say, having spent 20 years in the institutional multifamily business, I'm pretty close to most developers, owners, operators, management companies, and sort of the institutional Bay Area multifamily market. And so, we know most of these people well. We know the assets in Dublin and who owns them. We could get to them relatively easy. We're always seeing things that are either formally listed for sale, or we're talking to people about off-market potential transactions. As Linda hinted at, there are sort of live transactions, both existing assets as well as development opportunities that we have been looking at as well. And I guess that sort of addresses, maybe that was your very first comment, is there any urgency here? I think we always feel like there's urgency to what we're doing, and that we're really trying to scale this program to provide as much housing as possible. But there are live opportunities in Dublin should we be able to move forward here and get the city on board as a CalCHA member that we could very much strike on immediately. Talked about development. There was a comment about the city looking at every project, and I wanted to make something really clear. So there's sort of a two-pronged approach that we've developed here, where the resolution that we can hopefully come back to council with is really a general level approval. And it states that the city is becoming a member, that the city generally supports CalCHA's issuance of bonds here for this specific purpose, and then this concept of accepting the surplus economics. And as part of that, it's this purchase option agreement that's utilized to accept the surplus economics. And so that all of these agreements are in their final forms signed off on by council and city attorney and housing staff as part of those, what I'll call general approvals. But to be perfectly clear, the CalCHA cannot then, once that resolution is passed, show up and buy whatever they want and start issuing bonds all over the city of Dublin. They still have to come to the city to get, in this case, I believe we're authorizing the city manager to enter into these purchase option agreements. CalCHA and Catalyst would still have to come to the city on every single opportunity and get the city to agree to enter into a purchase option agreement. So if there was something that the city didn't like for some reason, the city could very easily just say, we would never enter a purchase option agreement on that asset. And so this two-pronged approach is meant to allow us to gain approvals at a general level at city council, and then to be able to move at the speed of commerce if and when there's actionable transactions such that authority has already been delegated to the city manager's office, and we can then sort of, keep pace with a transaction that may be formally listed and moving too quickly to try to get back onto a council agenda. And that's what we've done. I should mention there's 14 members of CalCHA today, and that's what we've done in every single jurisdiction that's joined, is that exact same process. And then lastly, there was a comment about affordable by design. I think that's sort of related to this NOAA term that people use as well, naturally occurring affordable housing. And I mean, happy to expand upon that. I'm sort of forgetting exactly what the question was there, but I think it was about, these are existing assets. They may or may not be sort of naturally affordable today, but what we have found is that regardless of whether we're chasing sort of a Class A, newer, nicer, bigger community, or an older, what most would call a value add community, we're still able to offer really significant affordability from day one. There's always a question as to whether the 120% AMI rents, for example, are sort of at market or inside of market, but at a minimum, we ensure that 2/3 of our rents, so the rents at the 80% category and the 100% category, are pretty significantly below market. And then we layer our 4% annual cap on top of that, which is well within AB 1482 and most other local rent controls. And so we feel that we provide pretty significant affordability from day one, and then even more on an ongoing basis. So sorry to be long-winded, but I wanted to march through all those things, and hopefully I didn't miss anything.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay. I was sort of halfway through my first question.
Please.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
For that, on the affordable by design, where I was going was sort of, I think you already answered it, was sort of asking if the majority of properties that CalCHA is interested in are newer, which most of them aren't affordable by design unless they're newer properties with just studio apartments, which most of them are not, or whether they're sort of the older ones that the rent has stayed lower, are already a little bit affordable. And the follow on to that is once these properties are deemed affordable housing, they come off the property tax roll. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm happy to address the first question as well. I didn't know if you were.
No, I think you did. I think you answered it.
Oh, okay.
What
I'm happy to expand upon the assets we've bought to date and whether they're older, newer, sort of, because there's a bit of a mixed bag, and maybe just to highlight for you, we have bought sort of brand new Class A, newer assets. And we also, which we're really excited about, we're closing a transaction in the city of Livermore in 2 to 3 weeks. And this is a mid-'80s constructed asset that most would call a value add. And what most mean by value add is that they're going to invest a bunch of money and jack up the rents and kick everybody out and move new people in who can pay more. And our version of a value add is that we're going to invest just as much money and make it really nice, and we're actually going to decrease rents and keep everybody there. So we're trying to think of a catchy phrase for whatever our version of value add is. But what's really exciting about the Livermore acquisition is this is an asset that is smaller than most that we have done. It's older than most that we have done, and also it had a regulatory agreement on it that expired a couple of years ago, and the city was up in arms in that they weren't able to sort of rescue the affordability that existed there. And we're now not only reinstating the affordability they lost, it had a 25% affordable component at sort of moderate income rents. We're not only reinstating that, but making it 100% affordable. And so we continue to test this model, our financing structure, against newer deals, older deals, bigger, smaller. And we actually think we have some interesting mechanisms for much smaller assets as well on more of a direct placement basis rather than having to do the public bond offerings that we have been. So we sort of feel like we're just getting started, and there's a lot of optionality around how to utilize this financing mechanism.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kumagai?
Yes, thank you. I don't know if this question is for staff or for Mr. Moss. Well, Mr. Moss, thank you for coming back, and thank you to you and your team for enduring our last meeting. Sorry we had to keep pushing this off. So for existing development, are current residents displaced if they don't meet the means-based test for the moderate income?
No, we specifically have a non-displacement clause within our regulatory agreement and all of our bond documents.
Okay.
And I'm happy to share with you sort of how that process works if you want me to give you a minute or so on that.
And how do you guys typically advertise and select candidates? Is there any kind of consideration for what types of candidates you bring in, or is it just strictly a means-based?
It's strictly first come, first serve. I think that was a question earlier as well, and it's means-based. And I would love to tell you that we have gotten to the point where we have a line around the block, and we have a waiting list, and it's really hard to get in. We have not yet reached that point, and so we advertise like most other sort of market rate apartment complexes advertise. And I would also tell you that we've learned a lot since we opened our first property, and there's a happy medium between sort of calling yourself affordable housing, and unfortunately and undeservingly there's some negative connotations that exist around putting those two words together, affordable housing. And there's also, generally I would say people can be pretty prideful and don't necessarily want to think of themselves as qualifying for any program, if you will. And if you think of the incomes, given the AMI levels in the Bay Area, we're dealing with some pretty high income households. And so we've realized that marketing ourselves as any form of affordable housing is actually not helpful, because some of the exact people that we're trying to help may be turned off by thinking of themselves as, charity cases in one way or another. So we think we've gotten a lot better with our messaging and marketing, but it looks very much like a nice high-end institutionally owned and managed apartment asset that happens to be, a great building and a great location at a really achievable rent.
So across your portfolio, what's your occupancy rate that you're seeing, and is that on par with market rate housing?
Yeah, we're mid to high 90s occupied right now. I think even the more important metric in a post-COVID world is probably our collection ratio, because I think we're all seeing that there's plenty of apartment owners across the country that are having a really hard time collecting rent. And we've actually been surprised that our collections have continued to be in sort of the mid to high 90s as well. It's taking people a little bit longer to pay. They're sort of slow playing it. And we've come up with some really innovative solutions around flexible rent payments so that people can pay over the course of the month. And we're working with people on payment plans, but ultimately we're still collecting, really strong levels. And so I would say we're doing as well, or maybe better than sort of the average or definitely the Class A space out there.
Is there room, Jordan, in the agreement, the structuring of the agreement, where we could perhaps require our minimum inclusionary zoning ordinance affordability in any project that is acquired by CalCHA?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know if we want to flip back a couple slides to the proposals here. Chris, did you want to take that? I think we sort of addressed this already, right? In the if I'm hearing the question right,
you can maintain the existing affordable units. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times what happens in Dublin is in a particular project, we may opt to take in lieu of fees instead of building the units in. So instead of achieving 12.5% of our units being affordable, what ends up happening is we have much a lower percentage. Typically, we end up having moderate units, but we don't have low, very low units. So what I'm asking is there an opportunity for us in working with CalCHA and working with Catalyst to perhaps increase our low, very low unit count by requiring that any project that's acquired by Catalyst, I'm talking about existing development, that we would bump it up and require that they have the low, very low units in the project.
So for existing product, just to make sure I'm hearing you, when we put a regulatory agreement in place, it would not be the standard regulatory agreement we've been utilizing, which creates equal segments of 80%, 100%, and 120% AMI housing, but there would be bands of extremely low income or increased bands of low income housing. That's the question?
Yeah, I think so.
You know, it's really, I think the answer is our model is extremely flexible. There is not a program, if you will, like there is if you deal with CIDLAC and TCAC and you have to do 20% of the units at 50% of AMI or 40 at 60. It's definitely flexible, but ultimately we need to have projects that are financeable. And so, you know, one end of the spectrum is, you know, could we do this and go compete with market rate buyers to acquire an asset and make the entire thing available to 30% AMI households? That clearly wouldn't work, right? We just wouldn't be able to generate the income to service the debt and retire the debt over 30 years. But I think we're happy to basically look at this as levers that we can pull. And so I think if there were an interest in creating a sliver of units, you know, at the 30 or 50% level, I think we may have some trade-off where we then need more units at the 120% level or something like that. But it's something that we can consider. We just need to ensure that we've got a financeable project at the end of the day.
So what is the amount of, what's the source of the, I guess, the capital investment that is required to buy down rents, if you will, for so many years? Jordan,
the source
model.
It's 100% of the capital for these projects comes from selling CalCHA issued governmental revenue bonds to some of the largest bond investors out there.
And you're bonding against the future rents?
Yes, the bonds are backed solely by the project revenues. Maybe just to expand upon that, you know, the city is not the issuer of these bonds. The city doesn't credit enhance the bonds. We're not diminishing the city's issuing capacity. They're issued by CalCHA. They're acquired by large financial institutions. At this point, they're unrated. They're not credit enhanced in any way. They're obviously fairly long dated in that there's a 30-year term, and they're backed solely by the project revenues. And even with that credit profile, we've been able to attract a lot of interest. We've been massively oversubscribed on every transaction, and we've been able to obtain really low yields. The last asset that we closed was in February, so this was weeks before we all began sheltering in place, but we sold our bonds on, this was the Marin County asset, at a 3.2% tax-exempt interest rate. And the Livermore asset that I mentioned, which is going to close in a few weeks, we think, you know, the municipal bond market sort of blew out for a period of time there, and has now come sort of roaring back. And so we think ultimately we'll close that well inside of 4%, hopefully in the 375 range or something like that. So it's still pretty attractive capital if you think of it being 100% leverage, you know, for 30 years and sort of unenhanced and unrated.
Well, attaboy for California real estate. Excellent. And so just to be very clear, none of our affordable housing in lieu fees and the pots of money that we have generated to partner with other housing providers is impacted by this.
That's correct.
Okay. So back to Councilmember Josie's previous question. You know, what's, I don't know if we have an answer, but the order of magnitude, it seems to me that if we were collecting property tax on a property, we're now not collecting property tax on that property. We could evaluate that financial decision impact at the time of transaction.
You could.
Yeah, Jordan, if you
sorry.
let me just talk about it. So, I mean, one of the reasons why this financial model works is that they aren't on the property tax rolls. They can use that revenue to invest into the subsidizing of those rents.
Yep.
So that's one of the reasons why it works. And it would be no different. Our nonprofit of low and very low income affordable housing projects are not on the tax rolls either. So this would be sort of in that same vein. So just kind of making that comparison and trying to provide some affordability. It requires some concessions on the part of the local agency where those things reside. In the case of very low, it's no property tax. In the case of this middle income housing, it would be similar, different financing model and mechanism. And ultimately there is some ability for the city to recover some of those costs on the tail end of this deal. And so, I mean, Jordan, if you could speak a little bit to the equity component of this and how that would work to the city's potential favor if they chose to purchase the asset. We could also, at the end of a purchase, period, or during a purchase period, we could also transition that asset to a nonprofit housing developer as well and convert those to very low and low income housing. Jordan, I don't know if you want to talk about sort of the back end of this when it comes to property tax revenue.
Sure, I'm happy to add to that. I think just to add to the optionality as you're outlining the potential here down the road, it's not only the city potentially triggering its option or assigning it to a nonprofit housing organization, but arguably the city could just sell the asset as well. They could have Cal CHA sell the asset. And so one way that I think about this is, if there's a $100 million project today, in 30 years, it's pretty easy to wrap your head around it doubling in value. I mean, we've seen doubling in real estate values in a lot shorter period of time than 10 years generally in California. But you then have a $200 million asset, and if everything goes as planned and the bonds have been fully redeemed over that 30-year period of time, your purchase price would be $0, right? Your purchase price is whatever the outstanding debt balance is. So you have a $200 million asset with no debt against it. You have all this optionality as to whether you take title to it, assign it, sell it, utilize the money for whatever you see fit. Clearly, that would likely be a different council 30 years down the road, but. We've done some math for what it's worth, where we've taken the present value of all of the rental subsidies that are created over a 30-year period, as well as the present value of that equity that gets embedded, sort of builds up as we pay down principal over the term, as well as the long-term cash flow once you have an asset that's sort of unencumbered and wildly cash flowing on the back end. And we've compared that to look at it from sort of an ROI perspective. We compared that to a city's loss of tax revenues over that 30-year period of time. And that ROI, if you want to think of it as a return on investment, is generally sort of 100 to 200x return. And so, while it is very much the case that we are taking existing assets off the tax rolls, if you think about not only there's the financial aspect that I just mentioned, which, is I feel and others have felt pretty compelling from an ROI perspective, but there's the social piece as well. We all know how long it takes to provide any affordable housing, and the thought of being able to buy something and immediately convert it overnight, especially at the scale at which we're operating. Most people have found that pretty interesting.
So thank you for that. I will worry about residual and options down the road and acquisition, I guess maybe when we get there, but it's good to know about those options now. But my final question is, we mentioned we are able to target teachers. Are we able to target teachers who work in Dublin? Are we able to target city employees who work in Dublin? Are we able to target other first responders who work in Dublin? Obviously, if they change jobs, that could happen, but at least I've always felt like if we could partner with our school district, and by partner, I just mean bring in a program that benefits them, that would help them attract and retain teachers perhaps. And so very much in tune with this, but I want to make sure it would benefit our teachers and our staff. Are we able to do that?
Linda, would you like me to take that?
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the fair housing question. So Jordan, if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask John. John, I don't know if this is an area of expertise on your end or not, but I've always gotten very gray answers from even people who specialize in fair housing, but I'm happy to have you start and I can add to it.
And by that, I was wondering, maybe we could just assign, so you did say first come, first serve. So I guess one of my questions is, could we do this based on a points system? Because indeed, I've seen other allocations based on, points. You have a point if you have a special disability, you have a point if you're a veteran, you maybe have a point if you're a teacher in the district, that kind of thing. So I guess the first question is, can you do it based on a point and system as opposed to first come, first serve? And then maybe a follow-up to that related is, can you find ways to prioritize people that work in our city?
And I'll jump on this one first, and then let Jordan respond, or tell what his actual experience has been. But this is a very common request for cities to ask for some sort of local preference, and we often will put that requirement in these sorts of agreements. We will always make it subject to compliance with federal and state fair housing laws. And so the issue there is just making sure that this preference does not lock in, or lock out the types of groups that are protected by those fair housing laws. So I would say that that is something that we would seek to put in these agreements, but it may take a little bit of work to make sure that it is in compliance with law.
I think one of the points that we sort of experienced with respect to the Valor Crossing project is we had a segment set aside that were voucher based, and then we had constructed more of a marketing program to make sure that we were reaching the audiences that we thought were going to be eligible to participate on a first come, first serve basis. So they weren't necessarily applied. And Jeff or Christy can correct me if I'm wrong on the history of this, but they're basically assigned, if the way we marketed the program, the way we did our outreach with Las Positas to the Veterans Center, we wanted to make sure that we were attractive to those that who wanted to apply. And of course, there were hundreds of people who applied to become residents of Valor Crossing, that we encouraged that there be a lot of veterans who attempted to apply for that. And I think in the case of this type of conversation, it would be sort of a similar approach where you sort of make sure your marketing is directed towards the audiences that you'd like to see apply to become residents of that community. And by virtue of that, we can, if we were to achieve this and Jordan was able to buy assets in Dublin, we could certainly let the district know about it.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, in calling this essential housing as we have been, I mean, this is very much every demographic that I think you have in mind is who we're attempting to approach anyway. And I won't bore everybody on the call today with the details of sort of our marketing strategy and social mobile targeting and some of the things we've been able to do with, the digital marketing agencies out there. But we're very much doing this already to ensure that our message is appearing in front of the right people on a very regular basis. And so I would just commit to doing whatever we can do sort of within the fair housing law so as not to get in trouble. But I think we're all on the same page with who we'd like to see living here.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. I don't have any further questions other than how I know you've been in the housing providing market for 20 years. How long has Catalyst been around again?
Catalyst has been around for 5 years. We got our start doing tax credit, truly capital A affordable housing, and we're so discouraged by the non-scalable nature of that and the inability to serve the middle income demographic that led us down the path of finding another avenue and assisting in the creation of Cal CHA, and then putting together what will soon be, call it $600 million of Cal CHA transactions over the past year and a half or so.
And did I hear you work with ORIC as your counsel?
We do.
Wonderful. Hey, well, top notch. My sense is that we have a very robust, although it's never enough, affordable housing. This is one extra option. And so staff's presenting it to us. And so it seems worth while to pursue. Are there any other clarifying questions for staff or Mr. Jordan here from Catalyst? If not, I'm willing to entertain. I think it's time to entertain for either advocacy or an outright motion. I'm willing to support.
Don't we need public comment first, if there is any?
Oh, I would have, Ms. Marcia, do we have any public comment on this item?
There is no public comment on this item, Mayor.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move the staff recommendation.
Now, there's a choice here that's continue to work to find indemnification liability concerns. I would say that John can work with ORIC. So I'm ready to go to item 2, return with a resolution, assuming that they'll get that stuff worked out. So are you moving the staff recommendation for the second bullet?
I'm moving the staff recommendation for both to continue to work to adequately in.
I see they're both. Yeah. Got it. I misread that. Apologies. I'll second. And ask for a roll call vote.
Councilmember Josie?
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel?
Aye.
Mayor Halbert?
Yes. Thank you very much. We've been at it a while. Let's take a bio break, maybe 5 minutes. Would that be okay with everybody?
Yep.
So we'll come back in 5 minutes.
All right, we're in break. Oh, thanks, Marcia.
I see three of us back. We're waiting for Sean and Mel.
I'm here.
Okay, great.
I'm here.
McCartney, are we ready to go back on?
Yep, stand by. Okay, and here we go, sir. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're live.
Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome back. We're returning from a brief recess, and now to proceed with item 6.1, the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan Amendments for 2020. Ms. Smith?
Yes, thank you, members, mayors of the, mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight, Amy Millian will do a presentation on the amendments that we're proposing for the downtown specific plan that will bring into to bring the preferred vision into the document. Amy?
Yes, thank you, Linda. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Before we begin, Ms. Moore, do we have public comment speakers on this item?
Mayor, we have one speaker on this item.
Okay, and I note we received a couple of emails just today, so thank you. Okay, Ms. Millian, take it away.
Great. If I have done this successfully, then you can see my PowerPoint. Did I do this successfully?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So good evening. The project before you are staff-initiated amendments to the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan. The proposed amendments, as Ms. Smith indicated, begin to implement the Downtown Dublin Preferred Vision approved by City Council in November 2019. So for a very quick overview, the plan was adopted in 2011. It's divided into 3 districts: the transit-oriented, the retail, and the Village Parkway District. Each of the 3 districts have development standards and design guidelines that are unique to each district. As mentioned, the City Council approved the Preferred Vision in November 2019. The Preferred Vision builds upon the vision set forth in the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan and begins with the Dublin Place Shopping Center. Preferred Vision contains 3 primary components, which are siting of a town square, new street grid network, and downtown character. The Preferred Vision charts a path forward to improve the retail district of the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan over the next 30 to 50 years, with the goal of achieving the town square and related surrounding development in the next 5 years. The proposed amendments to the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan to begin to implement the Preferred Vision consist of 4 primary changes: adding the new street grid network to the retail district, incorporating the town square, combining the non-residential or commercial square footage allocation, and changes to the design standards and allowable uses in the retail district. The existing street network in the retail district is characterized by large blocks that are not conducive to a pedestrian-friendly environment. The large single block is bound by Regional Street, Amador Valley Boulevard, Amador Plaza Road, and Dublin Boulevard. The Preferred Vision created smaller, more walkable blocks in this area of the retail district. 3 north-south streets and 3 east-west streets are envisioned. Everything starts from the northern extension of Golden Gate Drive, which is the one public north-south street. From there are 2 private streets closer to Regional Street. The grid pattern is completed with 3 east-west streets. The southern 2 streets closest to Dublin Boulevard will be the 2 public streets. The new street grid is key to providing a traditional downtown format. This proposed amendment lays the foundation for future development patterns in this area. No streets are proposed to be constructed at this time. This is simply starting to lay the foundation and taking an important first step towards implementing the Preferred Vision. Next is the town square. It's a 1-acre park and plaza that will serve as the central public gathering place in downtown Dublin. The Preferred Vision located the town square on the block north of Dublin Boulevard along the future extension of Golden Gate Drive. The town square is designed with open space for activation. It will concentrate activity in an area where there can be outdoor dining, event space, programming such as farmers market, yoga in the park, and concerts. The Downtown Dublin Specific Plan Amendment includes citing the town square and adding it as an allowable use to the retail district. When the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan was adopted, a certain amount of development was anticipated in each district. The anticipated development included both residential units and non-residential or commercial square footage. In 2019, the council may remember that we combined the 2,500 residential units allowed in the plan area into one allocation. The proposed amendment combines the allocation of the new non-residential square footage from the transit-oriented and retail districts into one pool for the two areas. As shown in the table, there'll be no change in the maximum limit to new non-residential development in the downtown specific plan, which is just about 2.2 million square feet, and no change to the Village Parkway district. Due to the urban nature of the transit-oriented and retail districts and their proximity to the West Dublin, Pleasant, and BART station, the development of these two districts is truly intertwined. Combining the non-residential allocation into one pool for the two areas would provide for greater flexibility in the development of the downtown and allow for the market to drive the location of development. The combined pool would allow for implementation of the preferred vision, which focuses on redevelopment of the two shopping centers. I just want to make a quick note that there was a typo in the agenda packet, table 3-4, in the red lines to the specific plan that was then carried over to the resolution for the amendment. More specifically, this was on packet page 168. It shows 2,266,810 square feet combined for the retail and transit-oriented district. The second digit is the incorrect digit. It should be a 1, not a 2. So the correct number is 2,166,810 square feet as shown on the slide. There was a new resolution correcting this error that was provided to you later this afternoon under the SB 343 release. And so that is ultimately the resolution that staff is asking you to approve. So moving on to the last set of amendments, the process leading to the preferred vision was really unique in that the city gathered a team of professionals from a variety of fields to help the city come up with a realistic development potential and the needs, to list the needs and make it happen. The initial focus of the preferred vision was development on the first floor blocks north of Dublin Boulevard, referred to as the core. The proposed amendments strengthen the existing requirements and implement the preferred vision by requiring the following considerations in the core for new commercial developments. Locate key entrances in retail clusters close together, and ideally one every 50 feet maximum. Minimum height of a ground floor to second floor of 18 feet. Minimum building height of 40 feet. Minimum depth of a ground floor commercial to be 50 feet, noting that 60 feet is preferred. And the spacing of structural columns 30 feet apart for more usable space. As previously mentioned, the proposed amendments include the siting of the town square as an allowable use in the retail district. They also include a modification to allow lodging as a permitted use in the retail district. The addition of lodging in the retail district further enhances the mixed-use environment and creates for a more financially feasible development in the area. When the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan was adopted in 2011, City Council certified an EIR, which evaluated all the impacts of the development potential in the plan. In 2014, the Downtown Specific Plan was amended to reduce the amount of commercial development to the current 2.2 million square feet and increase the allowable residential units to 2,500. At that time, an evaluation was completed and an addendum to the EIR was prepared. In 2019, the Downtown Specific Plan was amended again to increase the allowable floor area ratio, combine the residential into one allocation, and amend the parking standards. Again, an evaluation was completed and an addendum to the EIR was prepared. For this project, we also evaluated the impacts and the proposed amendments in relation to what was evaluated in the EIR. As I mentioned, these amendments do not increase the development potential of the area and stay within the thresholds already established in the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan and what was evaluated in the EIR. We found that there were no new impacts and therefore no further environmental review is required. The mitigations that were adopted as part of the EIR will continue to apply to future development projects. The Planning Commission considered this project at their regular meeting on May 26th. The Commission unanimously recommended approval of the amendments. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve amendments to the Downtown Dublin Specific Plan to create the new street grid network, site the town square, combine the remaining allocation into one pool, allow lodging in the retail district, and amend the design guidelines for the core area of the retail district. I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Very good. We often go to clarifying questions of staff before we go to the public comment. I'm inclined to follow that as well at this time. Vice Mayor Goyle, any questions of staff?
Not at this time. I think it was pretty consistent with all of our study sessions and our past actions.
Very good. Councilmember Hernandez?
No, I don't have any clarifying questions. I do have a couple comments though. This has been a long process for many, many years. And I remember voting on it when Vice Mayor Biddle was alive and Councilmember Gupta was on there back in 2017. We're at the Shannon Community Center. And we had the discussion of, moving forward with ULR, which I think is probably one of the best things that we decided to do because it made us move a little bit faster. It's been 10 years since this was created in 2010 and then went back. So it's been a very long process, but I finally see that it's finally coming together. And this is actually something that I've been wanting for so many years, since the first day when I got onto council and Chris Foss called me and said, what is one of your goals? And so I'm just excited. I know it's going to be a long process, but this is very close to me and I'm just happy to finally see it moving forward.
Very good. Councilmember Josie?
I have no clarifying questions at this time. Thank you.
Councilmember Kumagai?
I don't have any clarifying questions at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Very good. Let's go to members of the public for comments. Ms. Moore?
Mayor, the speaker on this item tonight is Janine Gilligerton.
Yes, welcome. And we received your email earlier today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity to address all of you, and I especially want to thank the Vice Mayor for responding to my email and addressing some of the concerns that I had. What I would like to do tonight is I'd like to have two additional things that I would like to ask you to consider. And the first one I'd like you to consider is the possibility, and the information as I was reading it, there was a possibility of a inclusion of a play structure in the town square. I'm a teacher by profession, and I just wanted to let you know that while I recognize the significant value of play structures, this I believe is an unsafe choice in a town square. The proximity of traffic, just the actions of children when they run around and they get excited. I feel that would probably play structures are best in neighborhood parks. And I think they're safer there. I think the children are safer there, away from the traffic and the pedestrian congestion, because in actuality, play structures are attractive hazards. The second thing I wanted to speak to you about real quickly is the design of the buildings. And I think that the renderings look more like Hayward, not in line with the downtowns of the Tri-Valley. Part of it is they're very austere. They're very, very, very modern. I think that for a town square, for the nation's backyard, as we are known, they should be in a more warmer, a more welcoming style that encourages the citizens to stroll and shop. This looks much more like San Ramon City Center, which is very urban, very stark, and very cold. And you have to do is think about when you go there, you go where you're going to go, and then you leave. And the last thing I would like to do is I would like to just for a moment address the CalCHA presentation. I'm sorry I didn't sign up for it, but I didn't know it was going to be as involved as it was from the agenda. I think this is a very exciting partnership possibility, but I caution the council to proceed with this as an addition to the Dublin's municipal code application to require 12.5% of all new housing to be affordable. As a community, we are in desperate need of real affordable housing, and requiring the actual construction of the affordable housing embedded in a new development is critical to real diversity and a vibrant community. Letting developers buy out and provide money to build separate all low-income housing is not conducive to that inclusivity or the diversity. And I thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And thank you for your email earlier today. Are there any other comments, speakers from the public?
No more speakers on this item, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Would staff care to address any of the concerns raised by the speaker, the two issues of including a play structure? Is that a done deal or something that could be? And then regarding the exteriors of the buildings.
I could try to attempt to address them on the issue of the play structure. I guess I don't recall having a detailed discussion about play structures at the town square. I think one of the things that we talked about was to ensure that it was a place that was inclusive of all ages. And so in many places where we've seen these sorts of town squares, they have some element that's attractive for children as well, whether it's a water feature or something like that. Those are things that typically are considered when you look at a town square or an area where you want people to come together. So by no means has there been a decision about play structures at this location, and that would go through a separate process that the council would have an opportunity to weigh in on it at a later date. Her second question was related to the design standards for the downtown more directly. So as you know, the preferred vision was an illustrative exercise in showing what could happen. It wasn't specific to assigning that these architectural renderings were going to occur in the downtown, but rather that there would be so we're trying to show massing and different elements that could occur. Those types of designs are currently allowed with the design standards we have today, as are more ornate, more traditional designs that you might see in a more traditional Main Street setting. So we're not being exclusive in saying that those things aren't allowed. We're just, I think our design standards have a fairly wide range of design styles that could be incorporated. And in fact, when you look at downtowns that develop over time, you typically see a variety of design standards because some things were built in the boomtown, some things were built in 1800, some things were built in the mid-century. So you typically see different design features and elements over a period of time in areas that develop over time. So you can imagine if this area were to develop over a 30 or 50-year period, the design elements and the standards you see would change. I think our current specific plan, which obviously won't last 30 to 50 years, we'll have to modify that as we go, would reflect that. And that's all I really need to say about that. And, I think what we try to avoid with some of these, and you can see some cities do them, is to create sort of this downtown Disney model where everything sort of looks like it's supposed to be authentic, but it isn't authentic. And so you try to be true to the designs that are rich for the time in which those things are occurring. And then if you are developing a long-term strategy, you'll see change in that, in sort of those elevations and the look and feel of the area during that period.
All right, so we're not locked in.
Nope.
Very, very good. Can you? Well, I just want to reiterate, this is something that we have been hard at work on for several years. I know that about 3 years ago is when we really took a hard stance, committed our skin in the game, our blood, sweat, and tears, as well as our dollars. And Miss Smith and others on the staff have worked with experts in the industry to work through a very complicated, potentially complicated situation with multiple landowners and different sets of CC&Rs and things like that. But really, 3 years ago, committing money to this, and money generated in large part by virtue of a project closer to the BART station, the Bayview project, and the asset that they generated from that development, which helps to fund the town square and the work that we're doing. We've made a lot of progress, and this is the final step before really truly sort of jumping off the cliff, right? And we've come so far, we're ready to go. And then once we do this, it still is a little bit of wait, right? Or can we start? What would be the most immediate next step, Ms. Smith?
Oh gosh, we are, yeah, we're in constant communication with the property owner who is quietly and successfully assembling the area and trying to put together an opportunity, working with their asset team on how to transform Dublin Place over time, being sensitive to the fact that there are some large anchor tenants that everyone loves and enjoys in today's current retail climate, and we need to make sure we can address the needs for those retailers that will continue to be successful over the short term and perhaps even the long term. So we're working with them very closely. We're working on providing them any support that they need through asset acquisition. And we've done that already with one of the corners, and we will work with them on hopefully a potential acquisition of the Burlington Coat Factory site.
Is that the vacant credit union building?
Correct.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, hey, listen, again, great job. I know that you personally have been very much involved in this, Ms. Smith. So with that said, unless there are any other clarifying questions, I'll seek a motion.
I will move
I'll second.
Staff's recommendation.
Sorry, I'll second, and if I can make a comment.
Sure.
So first of all, just to Councilmember Hernandez and the mayor, I'd like to say, Mr. Mayor, this was really one of your targets and your core fundamentals, and you achieved it. And I think really to the community, this is just the framework. It's the springboard of what we wanted to do to make sure that a vision of a downtown was achieved. It focuses on transit accessibility. It focuses on a walkable destination. It focuses on bringing housing and retail to the center. The prior speaker mentioned a little bit about making sure we bring affordable housing, and I think that's a key component to make sure that we don't veer away from that, and to make sure it's delivered. In regards to the play structure, I think we just need to make sure that as we move forward and we have further considerations underneath this framework and guidance, that we make sure we're implementing safe choices. And I think that was really the gist of the speaker. And then the renderings are only a symbolic of the guidance as far as what we could achieve. And it was a mechanism really to help becoming a conversing document for people just trying to understand the project, for us trying to understand the project, and for the current landowners really to make sure that as that vision's being established, where is it headed? So I'm glad to see this coming forward finally, and look forward to supporting it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much for those comments. Ms. Moore, can we proceed with the roll call vote?
Councilmember Josie?
Aye.
Councilmember Kumagai?
Aye.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Goel?
Aye.
Mayor Halbert?
Yes. Thank you very much. Passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 7.3. Before I do that, though, I did receive a text message from our city attorney reminding me that when we re-adjourned from closed session, I should officially say that we're reporting out from closed session, which we did at the beginning of the meeting, but we have no reportable action. Oh, he's asking me to do that under item 9. That's okay, Mr. Walker. I just did it. How's that?
Whenever, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Fine. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to item 7.3, report on commission and committee alternates.
Mayor, members of the City Council, I'm going to turn this one over to Colleen, but as you recall, we established the alternate committee members. And you asked us to follow up with you in a year. We're a month behind. We missed that month deadline, but we wanted to give you an update on how we think it's going, just giving you data facts. And I'm going to ask Colleen to give you that report.
Thank you, Linda. I'll be brief. Mayor and council members, at the meeting of May 2019, we talked about coming back to you and providing a report on how the alternates were utilized over the first year. Here we are in July, and in looking at the recorded attendance and the actions of the alternates from July 2019 to now, the alternates by and large have showed up to meetings. They have an average attendance rate of 97%, and one alternate on 3 of the 4 bodies participated and voted at least 2 times. Overall, alternates participated and voted a total of 9 times. We have 2 alternates on the Planning Commission, 1 on the Parks and Community Services Commission, 1 on Heritage and Cultural Arts, and 2 on Human Services. Tonight, we're simply looking for direction from you, whether you'd like to continue to utilize the alternates, and if so directed, we would advertise for those positions with the next round of appointments in December. That's all I have.
So we also had one planning commissioner recently have to resign. He moved. Did we have any others that changed hands midstream recently in the last year?
We would have to task Marcia with looking that up. I thought there might have been one other unscheduled vacancy during that period. It might
maybe a Health and Human Services Commission.
Might have been something, or a Senior Center Advisory or something like that.
So I think, as I recall, this is kind of a grand experiment, and I know I was a proponent of it. My main goal was to say, how can we involve more members of the community in the process of weighing in on these commissions? Because one, more heads are better than fewer, and we had so many applicants for seats that it just felt like, why not allow more people to access to participate. The other item was, indeed, we had some people that if they couldn't attend, then we would have a short number of people. Sometimes meetings, I think, well, I don't know if any meetings got canceled, but we actually had to ask people to leave a commission seat if they missed a certain number of meetings, and that left a hole. And so an alternate could be there to participate that night, but also perhaps be geared up to take a seat if somebody either had to leave for missing meetings or moved, which is what has happened recently. And so that was sort of the main reason for me: allow more people, and then allow for continuity of meetings with a full number of commissioners to attend. And so from staff's perspective, has this been, I'm assuming that we've allowed for more meetings to have a full slate of commissioners participating. And so verify that if you could, but then also, was this in any way hard to manage by staff?
I suspect that depends on the commission. And I would say, if I was characterizing staff's views as a whole, the answer is likely not terribly difficult. I think the feedback from staff is the utilization of the second alternate has sort of not there. So while they may have attended the meetings, and in some cases, perhaps they weren't as participatory as others, there was more utilization of that first alternate. So if the council was looking to make any changes, one suggestion might be not to have 2, but 1. I think, without getting ahead of the fact, I think you have some public commenters on this, so I won't get too far afield, but this is a tough time to make changes to this process, because it's a year where appointments occur. Typically, we start doing the call for appointments in October, and if you're asking us to make any changes to the process this year, we would ultimately have to figure out what that means for those that are currently serving, and or try to figure out if we are or we aren't recruiting alternates this year. Rather, if you're looking to make anything substantive change to this program, I would suggest you do it in the odd year where we don't have appointments going on, because we would have to bring you back something, and then we'd have to change the bylaws for all the groups, notify the groups, notify those entities, and so and the persons that are holding those seats. I would just offer that up, that if you are interested in doing something, it may make more sense to change it to next year, and perhaps we can get more feedback on how it's going from the commissioners at that point. We did have a shortened season because we didn't have a full year because of COVID, right? So we canceled some meetings. We've gone ahead and handled some of our meetings via Zoom, but you know, some of the work that those commissions were doing kind of fell to the wayside when there wasn't anything for them to talk about under COVID-19. So,
all right. Any clarifying questions of staff? Councilmember Goel?
None from my side.
Hernandez?
No, I kind of agree with Linda and the fact that, you know, everybody that's been in the positions this year just haven't really been able to navigate it just because of everything that's been happening.
Josie? Councilmember Josie?
I have a couple questions. We did not seek input from the commissioners or the alternates for this report, is that correct?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. Did the alternates get to participate fully? I think that what we initially said a year ago, and you know, it's been a year, so correct me if I'm wrong. What we initially said was that the alternates were to be full participants in the discussion, but not vote. They were seated because somebody was missing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And we don't have their feedback, so we don't know whether how successful that was in all of the committees or commissions.
Well, we can provide you with staff's perspective. We can certainly have Jeff or Christy speak to the Planning Commission, and LaShawn can speak to the participation of the alternates at the other commissions that are run by parks.
But we haven't heard from them as to how they felt that was. But they were all provided the packets ahead of time, the same as any commissioner would have been, and all of that, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I think when this comes back to us again, or if it does come back to us again, one of the things we need to talk about is why there was such a high rate of absenteeism. I'm looking at the staff report, particularly 45% of the time there was a planning commissioner absent in this year. And maybe that's just because this has been a funky year because of the Zoom meetings and, you know, things happen and things like that. But is that typical, or was this an odd year? Is it typical that we would have 45% of the meetings that there would be somebody absent?
I think that's a great question. And I guess if Jeff Baker can unmute himself, perhaps he can let me know what the standard sort of absenteeism has been in the past.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and council members. We don't have the previous year's attendance here in front of us, but this is not necessarily an atypical year. I'd say slightly higher than normal. You know, the commissioners oftentimes occasionally have business trips or vacations planned that unfortunately fall on a commission night. And so it's not unheard of to have someone be absent from a meeting. I'd say it was maybe a little bit higher this past year than normal. The commissioner in particular who just stepped off the commission, I believe he had a couple of business trips that he wasn't able to attend, but he is no longer on the commission now.
Right, and we did not, when we put in alternates, we did not suspend the rule about if you miss 3 meetings, then you were asked to step down. So for example, for planning commission, that was 5 separate planning commissioners that were absent from planning commission during the course of the year. Is that correct? Am I reading that right? Because it had to have been 3 different planning commissioners. If it was 5 meetings that were missed, it had to have been 3 different people. Otherwise somebody would have been asked to step down. Is that correct?
Right, we did not have anybody that violated the 3 strikes.
Correct. Okay, thank you. That was my questions for right now.
Councilmember Kumagai.
No, I think what I noticed from the report is that it seems like it's a value add to have an alternate there. for the instances where a incumbent is not available to participate and vote. One question for staff: the alternates are they are fully participating in the business of the meeting, even though they may not always have an opportunity to vote. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's a somewhat subjective statement because fully participating means they're at the dais. Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong on the planning commission. But, in some instances, maybe they're not engaging in the conversation.
Right there, all commissioners and alternates are at the dais and treated equally and have the same opportunity to participate. Some are more verbose and choose to participate more than others.
And I'll just add that the chair of the Planning Commission does ask for comments from the alternates, so they are given an opportunity to weigh in on the projects that are before them.
I'll just reiterate, my initial sentiment on this is that I think it does, it adds benefit in that it builds a bench, it, provides meaningful practice, if you will, for future potential commissioners. I think in the event where we do have an unscheduled vacancy, we have now, a small pool of highly qualified and read-in members of the community who, if they desire to apply for it, I think would be great potential candidates for those vacancies. And I think overall this is working. I'm not hearing anything else that suggests otherwise, and I agree that we continue on as planned.
We have speakers, at least one, Ms. Moore.
Yes, Mayor, we have 2 speakers on this item. The first speaker,
Okay.
Mayor, is Janine Thalblum.
Ms. Thalblum, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council.
You are on. Go for it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity here to speak tonight regarding the alternate commissioner position. While the staff report did include the numerical data, I thought perhaps it may be helpful to include input from actual chairs and alternates. As the chair of the Planning Commission, I can only speak on my experience during our specific meetings as it related to the alternates. I did find it a little apropos that on June 25th of 2019, our commission voted on amending the rules for the meeting, which included the alternates, and it passed 3-0 as we were missing 2 of our commissioners for the vote. So the alternates began serving the following week on July 1st. And there is certainly value in adding alternates to the commission. While I feel any commissioner who commits to the position should always make their best effort to attend the meetings, it is understandable that life and work conflicts happen. However, given the nature of the items before our commission, it is my opinion that a full crew provides complete vetting and a wider depth of discussion prior to making a decision. Plus, a 5-person group helps avoid any impasse if there's a tie in thought. We have had numerous opportunities for alternate Commissioner Greer to serve as the 5th commissioner at our meetings, and I find her to be incredibly prepared at every meeting. She has provided great input during our discussions and asks thoughtful questions. I make a point as the chair to always try and include both alternates during our meetings in every topic before us, regardless of whether they have a vote or not. I believe the alternate position provides Dublin residents another way to participate in a civic opportunity while also benefiting the commission in the absence of a team member. I would like to see council continue to include the alternate for Planning Commission, but perhaps only have one additional alternate. It gives our residents a chance to try on a position, so to speak, without an immediate 4-year commitment, and decide if it's something they may like to apply for when an open seat is available. So to me, that's a win-win. And I do agree that I think the second alternate, while they were able to provide, some input, it was pretty quiet and not utilized as a bigger need. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for sticking around tonight and participating and for all of your service. Well said. Next speaker.
Mayor, the next speaker is Catherine Greer.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Halbert, council and city staff. When I saw this item on the agenda, I thought it might be a good opportunity, like Janine, to jump in and just add sort of my perspective. I am the first alternate on the Planning Commission, and I think Sean said it well when he said it builds a bench. I definitely appreciate the opportunity. I've learned a lot in this process. As you can see from the numbers, I got to vote 5 times, so I've been an active part of the Planning Commission. I think our community development staff has been wonderful. I feel like I've been a part of the group. I get the same communication, I get the same packets to prepare for the meeting. So I guess I just want to encourage this role, not even on the Planning Commission, but across the board, because I really do believe what I've heard tonight, and that is that it provides a great opportunity to serve and a great opportunity to learn and a great opportunity to engage. So I just want to thank the mayor for the appointment. Thank you for all the opportunity, and just also to the community development staff for sort of taking the alternates under their wing and helping us to understand what our role is. Thank you.
Good. And thank you, Ms. Greer, and thank you. I watched some of the Planning Commission meetings. I think you did a fine job. So keep up the good work. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
So with that, no other speaker slips. I'll just say, ask just Linda one more time. I think I heard you say that messing with the structure at this point, changing from 2 to 1 or 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or whatever, making any changes at this point would just cause a little bit of hiccups. Maybe if we wanted to make any changes, let's do it later. This is a great informational item, I think. I think we validated some things, but do we have to, besides providing direction, would your preference be to not make any actions at this time?
I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you do anything at this time. If the council does want to hear more qualitative feedback from the commission, it may make sense to wait and collect more data about it over the next year and deal with it in basically an off appointment year, so that you can sort of plan for that.
I could support that. Let's see what others think. Vice Mayor Goel?
I completely concur and agree with our city manager. And I concur with Sean, Mr. Councilmember Kumagai. This was really supposed to fill in vacancies that were impromptu. It provided us to have a sort of a continuance. When I was on the Planning Commission, I showed up all the time, but there were times where we were struggling at times to even have 3. And so when you miss a quorum, a delayed action could happen, and that could have significant impacts on staff's plan on how things were moving forward. So from that perspective, I definitely feel, maintain status quo. I think in the future, we'll confirm whether an alternate 2 is necessary or not. But I think us continuing it for this 1 more year makes a whole lot of sense. And I really appreciate the Planning Commission coming in today, the chair and our alternate speaking up and sharing their perspective. I think that's important for us to hear from them. And so I would just say that, when the council hears it next time, maybe some sort of statistical survey or some sort of directional feedback from the commissioners would be maybe helpful, along with hearing from our key staff member on each one of those commissions. Thank you.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important. That's why Linda said what she said, in fact, is to make sure that there was, some feedback from not only staff, but also, staff being able to do the research as well, because it has been such an off year. So I'm definitely, I think it's been a learning experience. I'm sure there's pros and cons to it. So definitely just hold off until next year.
All right. Councilmember Josie?
Yeah, I think it's been I think it's definitely been a value add, as we've heard from a couple of people tonight. I would like to see when it comes back to us that we've surveyed all of the committees and commissions and actually every member, not just the chairs, so that we get a robust amount of data of how people feel about it, how they feel that it's added to their committees, added to the work, whether they think that the number is correct, whether they like 1 or 2 or 0. Also the staff member that primarily staffs those committees, how they've felt that it, you know, and to, you know, anonymize that data for us to, so that they feel like they can give us their feedback on how they felt like it affected their workload, how it affected the length of their meetings. You know, all of that information, not just, you know, did you like it? Did it work? You know, I'd really like to get some substantive information on that. But I completely agree. We shouldn't be making any changes right now. Thank you.
Councilmember Kumagai.
No, I'll just reiterate, I think it seems to be working, and sorry I jumped the gun on deliberations earlier before public comment. No disrespect to Commissioners Thalblum and Greer. It was unintentional, but I think that yeah, I think it's it seems to be working, and I support us moving forward.
Very good. I think anytime we can get to echo Councilmember Josie's questions, anytime we can get feedback from the commissioners on, you know, how this works, maybe we could certainly do that and get the depth of information. I'm glad to see that that we were able to expand access. I'm glad to see that we were able to have more fuller dialogue with 5 commissioners at each meeting. For the most part, it's certainly more than if we didn't have alternates. And so I think that we're better off for it. So I'm glad we did it. I'd like to thank all of you for going along with, I guess, you know, like I said in the beginning, kind of this grand experiment. I remember it was quite, we had quite the discussions to even get to this point. So with that said, I would recommend that we allow staff to continue on with the alternates, that sometime within the next year at their discretion, and or if a council member were to request specific timing, that whenever they're ready, come back in a year or so with more feedback. Good luck to every one of you who's on the council. I won't be at that time, but making that further determination. With that said, this isn't a vote, it's just a direction, and staff has good direction.
We do. I think if we come back to you, we would make it sometime in May or June timeframe again. When we intended on coming back, because you will have a new seated commission come January, or perhaps they might not start until February. So at least we can get a few months of information from that group.
Very good. Great. With that, we'll move on to item 9, other business. Staff, anything to report out on?
Nothing that I can think of. Colleen, was there anything I was supposed to mention? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Vice Mayor Goel?
Not from my side, just trying to stay healthy. Thank you.
Very good, very good. Councilmember Hernandez.
Just a quick update. Thank you, Linda, for writing the note on our behalf. Valley Link was actually moved to the period 1 project. And so the planning committee meeting at the MTC went really well. And Supervisor Scott Haggerty did an amazing job to fight to make sure that this project still stays in or is moved to period 1. So thank you for doing that.
Councilmember Josie.
I have no report tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Kumagai.
Wow, no report, Councilmember Josie. I'm shocked. Just a couple quick things, and then
don't get her started, Sean. Don't get her started.
Yeah, she might come back.
Yeah, she may reconsider after I give my items. So I attended our HACA meeting on July 8th. It was nice to see our new director there at the Housing Authority of the County of Alameda. He's doing a great job in his new role. It's not easy to come in midstream to a very important agency like that, a big agency with a big budget during COVID-19. So commend him for his work and getting acclimated with staff. I also attended on July 8th the Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District meeting. They did talk a little bit about there is the potential for new sightings of the invasive mosquito species associated with Zika virus. So they're keeping an eye out for that. I just wanted the public to be aware that ACMAD is open for business. Any reporting, they are working in person in their office. They have a small enough staff that they can accomplish that, but they also do a lot of work out in the field. So we are in mosquito season right now. So if you have any sightings or there's problematic areas where we need to introduce mosquito eating fish or other abatement measures, feel free to give them a call. They will be happy to come out and test and provide abatement measures. I also want to mention at our June meeting, I didn't have an opportunity because of the length of the meeting to talk about the ABAG General Assembly I attended at the beginning of June. We approved a slight increase in our dues that members pay. So it is based off of CPI and kind of per capita adjustments. We paid in our last fiscal year about $2,700, $2,800 less than we will be paying in fiscal year 2021. So that brought our total to $17,616 for membership for the fiscal year. And I just want to say that I advocated that we move forward. I think it's important that members are paying into the organization to get the work done. We have a very important year coming up ahead of us, and I didn't think it would be appropriate for us to be haggling over dollars and cents when their staff is going to be tackling big issues for us, such as RENA and advocacy around that. So, so yeah, there will be just a slight membership dues increase there. And finally, I want to bring back for reconsideration the denial of the At Dublin project. To be very clear, I'm not interested in re-engaging about the presented project as it was. I don't want to bring it back for reconsideration of approval. What I'd like to do is bring back for future discussion that we reconsider the manner by which we denied the project. So we denied it without prejudice. I mean, with prejudice. I'd like us to have a discussion about what it means to deny it without prejudice. It was very late at night and we had a very long meeting. And I don't think I had a very firm grasp on what exactly we were directing staff with that vote. I've since had discussions with staff and with the owner's agent about how we can best proceed on these parcels. My, personal feelings and opinion on how we need to move forward remain the same. I believe we need to engage in a robust community engagement effort to re-envision the plan for the parcels. And that would require us potentially to contract a consultant to hold multiple planning sessions and put together a plan and report. If we continue with a denial without prejudice, then we can re-engage with the applicant and then allow them, I believe, to bear the cost and burden of ensuring that process is successful, so that we can move forward with that plan. At an agendized item, we can provide clear guidance to staff on how we'd like to proceed in that engagement effort with the applicant and the community, and to move forward with a new plan.
Okay, so that's a request for reconsideration of item voted on before. Mr. Bacher, is that, what's the process for that? That's that can be done with the concurrence of.
Yeah, what he's asking for you all to do tonight is to add an item to the agenda in the future for a future meeting for you to consider a reconsideration motion that would be forthcoming. And I think it would be limited specifically to considering whether or not to deny without prejudice. It wouldn't include an approval, so we wouldn't have to renotice that, and it can be done in a single meeting.
Do we have to name a date certain?
You do not.
Okay. What is the rest?
I just want to clarify really quick with Sean or Councilmember Kumagai. So you want to bring it back so that there's a possibility for it to be turned around to be able to move forward and change the vote, possibly for it to be with prejudice.
Well, we denied it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we denied it with prejudice. I'd like us to
without
deny
prejudice.
it, or to consider and discuss what it means to deny it without prejudice.
So you just want to have the discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we would have to vote on it at that meeting about, you know, how we want to move forward. But in my discussions with staff and the applicant, it sounds like that's the best way to move forward with, you know, with my goal to kind of re-envision those parcels.
With staff or with the developer?
Well, I think it would include all stakeholders, but you know, and we can provide that guidance, you know, at the future agendized meeting. But you know, my druthers is that that it would involve a very, you know, robust community engagement piece.
Any item that we agendize and discuss would allow for public comment, and so whether the applicant appeared as a member of the public or as a party to the discussion of whether they would be willing to bear costs, as Councilmember Kumagai mentioned, you know, they would likely be in the meeting. Obviously, they'd have to be.
So wouldn't, if a new developer came in, commercial developer besides Shay, let's just say somebody else, wouldn't they bear the cost?
Mm-hmm. So in terms,
we're getting into a point of discussion, I think.
I was just going to mention
whether
that.
we should discuss without prejudice or with prejudice. I'm willing to have that conversation. What do others think? Councilmember Josie, Vice Mayor Bell.
I'm fine with it. I thought it was a bad idea to dismiss with prejudice in the first place because it burdened the city. So I'm fine supporting Mr. Kumagai's item 9.
Vice Mayor Goel.
I think right now for me, I'm not very open to that. I think we went through a long deliberation. It appeared that everyone understood their actions and their vote. So I'm not sure on the pertinence.
Councilmember Hernandez, any other thoughts? Did you support bringing it back for discussion of the method of denial, or would you rather not?
No, and I don't necessarily agree with the fact that the city would be held responsible for all the fees for any study session, because every single time I do believe that the developers paid for that.
All right. Well, I think we have 3 that have agreed to at least discuss. We didn't say when, but we'll work that out with staff. Fair enough?
Yes.
Kumagai, anything else that you have to bring for discussion?
No, that's it.
All right.
Point of clarity on bringing back an item, doesn't it have to be the majority of that voted in favor of?
The rule is simply that the only people that can make a motion for reconsideration are those in the majority. And so Councilmember Kumagai is prepared to make the motion for reconsideration. In fact, tonight, he's not even doing that. He's just asking to have an item brought back in the future where he could then possibly make a motion for reconsideration. So it's simply just asking.
He's
to
not
have
even
an
making a
item
motion
onto the
tonight.
agenda.
This is just, yeah,
Just
right?
to bring it on the agenda.
Right.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so tonight, I will say, Council Member Hernandez spoke about it earlier. It is important Valley Link be moved to phase 1. I'd like to also thank Ms. Smith for writing a letter. I understand that tomorrow MTC will actually formally take that action. I did appear at the Planning Committee's meeting and lobbied on our behalf for that to happen tomorrow. I think it will be finalized. I'll be on that meeting as well, if at all possible. Well, I just want to say to staff, we continue to struggle through the COVID pandemic the best we can. We continue to attend meetings with the Alameda County Health Officer every week. I know Councilmember Josie is often, perhaps almost always, always on those calls. I try to make them when I can. There are a lot of moving parts to this. The state's taking actions, the county's taking actions, and the cities are following a bouncing ball, it sort of seems at times. We're doing the best job that we can, and staff is almost bending over backwards to make sure that our business community is compliant with the rules and regulations in place, but also that our business community is able to the best of its ability, thrive. I shouldn't say thrive, survive, and sometimes not even that. I know, again, some businesses are probably closed forever, but we're doing the best we can to accommodate their needs. To that extent, that means also interpreting things that come down from the county and writing directions and advisories to the community and to the business community in general, and scrambling to get outdoor dining going and all the regulations that go along with that. We're just really doing a great job. So I wanted to commend staff for doing that. So keep up the good work. And, you know, I know that it's difficult on all of us. So with that said, that's the end of my report. And so with that, we'll adjourn. And our next meeting is, we take the first meeting of August off. So our next meeting is on August 18th. Is that correct, Ms. Smith?
That's correct. In the past, you took off the first meeting in August to attend National Night Out, which has been moved to October as a result of, well, currently October as a result of the pandemic. But we don't have a regularly scheduled meeting on August 4th.
Very good. Well, everybody, we are then adjourned. Thank you.